In the old days, love was pure and true. Now it's just a show for all to view. People use it for their own gain, leaving hearts in sorrow and pain. Once a sacred bond, now just a game. Hearts are broken, never quite the same. Love used to be a beacon bright, now it's lost in the shadows of the night. Oh, how we long for those days of yore, when love was honest forevermore. But now it's twisted, tainted and cruel, leaving us drowning in an endless pool. What can we do? In the spiritual world, all seems bright, but shadows lurk in the dead of night. Half of humanity wears a wicked guise, evil deeds hidden behind virtuous eyes. Beneath the surface, a darkness lies, masks of deceit veiling their lies. In this realm where good and evil collide, the line between them is blurred, hard to decide. So tread carefully in this world so grand, for not all that glitters is gold in the sand. In the spiritual realm where illusions endure, evil and good dance in eternal obscure. Just imagine that. Karma doesn't ask you how you want it, it just comes and take it. So be careful how you treat others on your way up the ladder, cause your way down, trust me. In a world of empty stares, fake love fills the air. Sincerity's distant glare, leaving hearts in deep despair. Truth is lost in a web of lies, hiding behind deceitful eyes. Love that fades and slowly dies, leaving us with heavy sighs. Aching souls in a loveless land, yearning for a genuine hand, but fake love rules with cruel demand, leaving us to understand. In this age of like and retweets, we've forgotten what real love truly means. It's not just about show and tell, but a feeling that makes our hearts swell. It's hard to know who's true and who's fake in a world where appearances are hard to shake. But real love is deeper than a profile pic. It's in the way that someone makes your soul click. So let's not get lost in the digital haze. Let's remember what real love truly conveys. It's not about followers or online fame, but a connection that sets our hearts aflame. In this world of make-believe, they all wear a smile, but behind the scenes, it's just a clever guys, puppets in their show, dancing in their stage. We're all just pieces of their charade. Beneath their mask of joy lies the tangled web, where secrets and deceits are carefully bred. Their lovey-dovey act is just for display. We're all caught up in their twisted play. So let's break free from this illusion so grand, and see through the facade with hearts unplanned. No longer pawns in their game of charade. Let's find our own path and not be swayed. I feel like I'm surrounded with people with strings attached to their back, waiting for their master's command. It's like when I was little, right, and I was reading Pinocchio. Every time that he told a lie, his nose grew. It's just that, in real life, their noses don't grow. Karma just catches. In the shadows we seek, a love so pure and meek, but all that's left is a ghostly echo, a memory bleak, longing for a bond that's true in this world so cold and weak, yearning for the love we knew before the all turned antique, lost in illusions of affection, bleeding like the mist, hollow hearts yearn for connection, any realm dismissed, seeking solace in echoes of the past where love truly exists, but all we find are mere reflections of what love once kissed. Amidst the ruins of our hearts, we search for something real, yet all we grasp are faded echoes of what used to appeal in this world where love has become just a commodity to steal. It's just a little food for thought. In the face of darkness, I stand tall and strong. With faith as my shield, I'll keep marching on. In the shadow of my dream. Hey, what up, everybody? I hope all of y'all is having a blessed and humble morning. Continue to have a blessed and humble day. This is shorty Rachel. I want to welcome all of y'all to the Writers for Life. Brings you the Let's Talk About It podcast, right? And today, today's topic is going to be an open panel Odyssey, right? From Keimani Latigue to the universe's mysteries, right? History, our roots, and beyond. Which means, right, we're going to have an update, right? Today, we have an update on Keimani Latigue, right? And then after we get done reviewing and reacting to the Keimani Latigue, right, we're going to head right into, the rabbit hole. We're going to dive down that rabbit hole, right, and explore the mysteries, right, the history, right, of our roots and beyond, okay? But jumping right into the Keimani Latigue, right, this is one sad story we've been covering on here, right? I've been asking questions, right? The purpose of these lives, right, the purpose of having these panels, right, is for us to bring solutions to the table. That is what we're seeking here, right? We're looking for solutions. We're looking, how can I say, to
better our communities, right? And once again, that's the purpose of these lives. We're not here to debate. We're not here to argue. We're not here to fight, bash, or bring anybody down, right? We're searching, we're seeking for solutions, right? Bringing reflections and awareness to the problems that we're having, amongst our communities, right? And, while we're diving down the rabbit hole, shit, I'm about to mix it all up while we're, um, sitting here trying to figure out, Keimani Latigue's case, right? I'm gonna also ask y'all questions, right? I ask mind provoking questions, right? Because what we want is, once again, is solutions brought to this table. How can we better, right, our policies, right, to help our children, right? How do y'all feel, right, when it comes to this case? How do you feel this case has reshaped the way our communities view social services in the judicial, right? The judicial system, right? Should social services hire more staff and find a better training system for social workers and enforce the laws and policies? If so, what solutions can we bring to the table and how can we enforce them, right? Um, I've seen a lot of people, right, talk about that we should only blame parents, right, in situations like this. But what's crazy is, right, even in this, and even in the Keimani Latigue case, it has taught me something, and I don't know what y'all have learned, right, when it comes to the, Keimani Latigue, right. I would love to hear, what lessons do y'all think, right, communities can learn from the Keimani Latigue case in situations of child abuse and neglect, right? I've seen where, child services has, you know, denied their parts in helping Keimani Latigue, right, and the family. I've seen where, I feel as though that the police department themselves, right, and what I mean by the police department is, put it like this, the judicial system, right, is covering up for themselves too, right? I feel as though, like, that little by little, this story is going to change. And this is why, I review and I react to these topics, right, to these type of stories. Once again, I want to bring solutions to the table to see if we could, either change the policies that are not working, right, when it comes to the protection of our kids, right? And by, in order for us to do that, right, I would love to ask y'all, right, what do y'all think are the most overlooked aspects of this case, right, that deserve more attention, right? I feel as though that so many people are just focused on the father, right, of Keimani Latigue. If he's the father, if he's not the father, right, we know that he is the person that, unalive this child, right? So many people seem to be shocked, right, that a father can unalive their child. But, time after time, it has been proven, whether it's in your community, my community, whether it's something that we see the media or social media bring out, right? We've seen cases where biological fathers and biological mothers have sexually assaulted their children and have also gone as far as unaliving their children. So it's crazy, right? When I hear people say, "Oh, I'm shocked. I can't believe, that a biological father could do this to their child." Well, guess what? It has happened. And that's why you see, leaders within our communities trying to bring, solutions to the table to see what changes can be done. How can we enforce these changes, right? How can we ensure that we're keeping the focus on solutions and not just the tragedy? Right? Once again, we're seeking solutions, right? So that we could, prevent tragedies like this in the future. And what's crazy is I've seen so many people bring solutions to the table, and I've heard so many people, give excuses on why these solutions would not work. I hear people scream change, right? But how can we make change happen if we're making excuses for every little thing that can help us, right? Especially when it comes to, like, the Department of Human Services, different things within our communities, right? Our schools, right? Um, our programs. And I'm gonna keep saying it. Not listen. This is something that I'm going to keep asking people because I feel as though these are topics that need to be brought to the table, right? So what we're going to do is, right, we're going to hop into this live, right? We're going to jump into this live, right? We're going to get it started. We're going to review and react to this video, right? Because these are updates. right? I don't know how many of y'all are, caught up. We've done 4 parts to, the Keimani Latigue, right along with the Janiyah Russell case, right? 4 different parts, right? On 5 lives. I think we did 5 or 6 lives on these 2 cases already, right? In both cases, I've asked mind-provoking questions for the same reason, right? I would like to know, in what ways can communities come together to support those, right, directly affected by the same or similar tragedies, like in the Keimani Latigue case. So we're gonna get this started. I don't know how many of y'all have caught up. For those of y'all that haven't caught up to the case, I do have lives on this, right? Pretty soon we're gonna be editing these lives, cutting them up, clipping them, and uploading the videos, whether it's on this channel or our premiere channel, right? So make sure, if y'all not subbed up to our premiere channel, y'all will check it out. The link is in our description box down below, and if it's not, let us shorty know and I will add it. But let's get this Jones started, right? Let's see what they got to say when it comes to the Keimani Latigue, right? So we have updates, right? The Keimani Latigue case, 11 investigates case files. And I did watch this video. And, that's the reason why I got so many questions written down, right, on this notebook. I've done research, right? I've sat here trying to figure out, what can we do, right? How can we do it? And I would love to hear more perspectives, more opinions, right? More ideas, right? From not just my subscribers, from those that are watching, right? And I would like to give a heads up to, anybody that's watching. Listen, if opinions offend you, right? If what we're saying on this channel makes you feel some type of way, if you don't like what we're saying, right? There's the door. Make sure the doorknob doesn't hit you, right? Where the good Lord splits you. Because we're not going to stop saying what we say. And I'm hoping that y'all got enough tape, right, to censor a shorty, and enough rope to tie her down. Because, as long as I got air in my lungs and I'm able to breathe, I'm able to talk, right, I'm going to keep bringing awareness, right, to topics like this. Because I feel as though we need to, keep talking about it, to figure out, what can we do? Can we make changes? Yes, we can. The problem is, there's too many of us making too many excuses. And guess what? I have allergies when it comes to excuses, and I see there's so many solutions that out of all the solutions, we could try to pick one to see which best fits our communities, right? So many communities, we got to see which one of these solutions is going to best fit, right, for what we is looking for. Hey, but to each his own.
Keimani was phenomenal. Keimani was a helper. She loved older music. She loved playing video games. She played basketball for Spring Elementary. She was highly intelligent. She loved the friends and family that she was allowed to be around. She was phenomenal. Like I said, she was like no other kid her age.
This case is one of the most horrific cases I ever heard. This is a 14-year-old that was murdered, raped, had her hands cut off, and her throat almost cut off.
I just wish that when I was down here last, that I had just taken her to Indianapolis with me, so this would never happen. A lot of things, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but at the end of the day, I just really wish that whatever happened and whoever did this, y'all didn't have to do that to her.
One of our SWAT teams was working a dangerous individual who was wanted for a serious crime.
This is an absolute animal that came into our town. Our SWAT are the best of the best. We just send a message. You murder somebody, do not come to this town.
It's just devastating that that me and my family have to go through this.
In the face of darkness, I stand tall and strong. With faith as my shield, I'll keep marching on. You may try to bring me down, you may try to silence me, but the warrior in me will never give up. You'll see, through trials and tribulations, I'll keep the fight alive. With courage in my heart,
All right, my bad. I had to block their little music. And it's still going.
Welcome into another edition of 11 Investigates Case Files. It's our streaming show where we take a deeper dive into stories and investigations that we're tracking. I'm lead investigator Brian Duggar.
And I'm investigative anchor Melissa Andrews. Today we're breaking down a case that has so many people calling for justice, and not just here in Toledo. It's the story of 13-year-old Keimani Latigue, a young life gone too soon. The investigation began on Tuesday, March 18th. Keimani's grandmother and legal guardian, Dorothy Latigue, tells 11 Investigates she came home from work early that morning and noticed things were out of place.
Now, I'm going to rewind this back, right? Because one of the reasons I'm also, on the Keimani Latigue case, right? I feel as though that the father isn't the only one, right, that is at fault when it has to come, to unaliving of this 13-year-old girl. I feel as though that the grandmother had parts, and I'm not sure how many other more people. We know that there's another man involved, right? But the grandmother's story doesn't add up. And I would like to know why this woman is walking free, right, with allegedly, with all the evidence that they allegedly have on her, right? And like I was saying earlier, now you got Child Protective Services talking about that they have no record, right, of anybody calling CPS. Well, according to the grandmom, CPS was at their house. According to the teachers and, staff of the schools had called CPS, right? So, I mean, something's not adding up. And that's why I say, I would love to ask y'all, right? What changes would y'all like to see in systems, institutions, or policies related to the case, right, to ensure something like this don't happen again in future cases?
I usually get off of work at 9 o'clock. I made it home like 9:40.
Things were out. Investigates she came home from work early that morning and noticed things were out of place.
I usually get off of work at 9 o'clock. I made it home like 9:40 that morning. She wasn't here. There were things in the floor that should not have been. That's what caused the alarm. So I called the school to speak with her. I asked them, could I speak with her? And then they did. They contacted the principal, her teacher, and the gym teacher, and all three of those guys said that she was not there.
That's when she called police. By Friday, March 21st, the community came together to search for Keimani. That effort included her mother, Tiara Caston, who lives in Cleveland.
I seen her on the 15th.
That's another thing too. Like the grandmother said that the granddaughter disappeared on the 17th, but according to everybody, the police report, Keimani disappeared on the 18th.
Tiara Caston, who lives in Cleveland.
I seen her on the 15th. Her dad brought her down to my house, and apparently my mother gave him permission. And honestly, it was just me loving on my kid. We played video games. We played. We talk mess. That's what we do. We roast each other, all types of stuff. But it's all love. This is breaking me. I've been falling the apart since I found out. I've legitimately been on social media since the minute I found out, spreading awareness, sending out flyers, contact information, anything to get my baby home. I have not slept in 3 days. I have not ate in 3 days.
Police tracked phone records, reviewed surveillance footage, and talked to witnesses. That led them to a man identified as Keimani's father, 33-year-old Darnell Jones. Detectives believed he was the last person with her. TPD says Jones provided inconsistent statements. By Sunday, March 23rd, he was charged with abduction. An arrest warrant was issued.
This man has been to my house several times. He usually takes her for weekends to his house to visit with him and his other children. And I feel deceived. Like, you played for so long in my face, like you was her dad, like you really had her best interests at heart. But where is she?
The next day, Monday, March 24th, police found Keimani's body in a burned-out house on Miami Street in East Toledo.
So does this case change, y'all perspective on the way a mother, a father, or grandparents, right, are viewed as or should be viewed nowadays, right? Do y'all still think that parents are not capable of harming their kids, of sexually assaulting their kids, or unaliving their kids?
The Lucas County Coroner's Office determined she suffered multiple deep cuts to her neck, and an autopsy determined her death a homicide. Jones was charged with murder.
We are working the case as fast as we can. As I said before, I think we're in a really good place investigatively, and I think as soon as we can button everything up and run down every lead, the last thing we want to do is be premature in our charges or premature in saying, the suspect we have, we're good. We don't like to do that. We like to make sure we investigate everything out there, so when we do take this to trial, there is no room for doubt.
Authorities tracked their suspect to Columbus, where body cam video showed Jones reaching for a gun. Then, an officer shot him multiple times.
Show me your hands right now. Pull your hand out of your... I swear to God, pull your...
Shots fired! Shots fired! This was an individual wanted for homicide out of Toledo. I called my union counterpart in Toledo. I said, hey, good news, we have your guy. Your guy committed a murder, chose to fled to our town. I'll tell you right now, the wrong town to come to if you murder somebody. Our SWAT team will go out looking for you. This case is one of the most horrific cases.
Yo, this SWAT team officer was on some Call of Duty type time
I ever heard. This is a 14-year-old that was murdered, raped, had her hands cut off, and her throat almost cut off. This is an absolute animal that came into our town.
Jones survived and was hospitalized in Columbus. He remained there through Wednesday, April 9th, when he was moved to the Franklin County Jail, awaiting arraignment the following morning.
I feel hurt. I've lost somebody in the city of Toledo that's been is so dear to me. And I feel like she kind of became part of Toledo.
The case has drawn the attention of so many people here in the Toledo community and even outside. There are passionate conversations and pleas for justice across social media, as well as criticism of Lucas County Children's Services.
I want to hear from CSB. We all do. What happened? What was the missing link? Where was the disconnect?
This is a concern to us here at Lucas County, because I want to be clear. We have no record of any call from a mandated reporter or community member for an entire year prior to her murder. We have no record of anyone from Toledo Public Schools ever calling us with respect to Keimani. We have no record of anyone calling us ever with concerns about Darnell Jones.
By March 27th, the Lucas County Commissioners...
That's crazy, right? Y'all heard that? They said they have no records of anybody making a report of Keimani. Yeah. He was long-winded, huh, for a second.
To us here at Lucas County, because I want to be clear. We have no record of any call from a mandated reporter or community member for an entire year prior to her murder.
So they have no record for an entire year prior to the murder, right? So what happened to the, teachers calling in twice, DHS going into the home twice prior to, this 13-year-old getting unalived? So what happened? Why are they throwing that under the rug? What is they trying to cover up? And that's the crazy part. We have a lot of issues like this with child services, right? And let me see, how can I put this question right? In what specific, in what way, right, can we make specific changes or improvements that, improvements that the Department of Human Services prioritize to address cases of neglect more effectively, right?
We have no record of anyone from Toledo Public Schools ever calling us with respect to Keimani. We have no record of anyone calling us ever with concerns about Darnell Jones.
By March 27th, the Lucas County Commissioners formed a task force to look into the agency. The goal? To identify any shortcomings, but not investigate how Children's Services handled Keimani's case.
So how can we hold the Department of Human Services accountable for not enforcing existing laws and policies, right, designed to protect our children?
The task force is not to examine a single case. Our shared goal is a broader to ensure that every child and every family in Lucas County receives the protection and the care they deserve. Nothing can be more important. I look forward to working with the community's volunteer who will be a part of this process.
Just look at our history. We've done task force before. Look at TARDA. We committed to make a change. There's substantial change. Health Department, they needed change. We made change. I'll stand on our record of not just talking. Nobody here is just we're not going to spend 9 months analyzing a problem. You know, we know it. We're going to know what the problem is, then we're going to go after it. I can't make any commitments today of what that looks like because nobody knows. But it goes where it goes. It's outside in, and we're going to get started.
Lucas County Children's Services has since sent out a news release. It's explained it can't release some information because of privacy laws, and other facts could create challenges for prosecutors as Keimani's alleged killer faces trial.
Because the understandable facts and the understandable rationale, we're not able to do that right now. But yeah, I do think that once this prosecution is over, and with the help of the task force, I think we'll be able to release our files and let the people judge how we responded prior to Keimani's death.
The agency spoke publicly during a news conference on Tuesday, April 8th. Executive Director Randy Muth revealed a report by Keimani's former teacher was investigated, along with another incident of excessive physical discipline by Keimani's grandmother. Those happened in December of 2023 and March of 2024.
All right, so if those happen around them times, how is it that, the head honcho of the Department of Human Services is talking about he has no records of anybody calling in, any abuse for Keimani Latigue? How is that possible? How did DHS, so that these two social workers decided to just pop up at this house for no good reason, huh? They just wanted to open and close a case because, their hands were itching just to mess with somebody, huh? Like they didn't have a supervisor to just send them on a case. Let's make it make sense. So once again, I left it down in the chat for those of y'all that want to answer it. Those of y'all that catch the replay, right? Y'all can leave your comments down below and we can get the discussion started, right? How can we hold the Department of Human Services accountable for not enforcing existing laws and policies designed to protect our children?
And both situations ended without sufficient evidence to warrant removing Keimani from the home.
We determined that the placement there was appropriate. All the basic needs of the child were being met. She was getting all of her sustenance, her housing conditions were fine, her school and medical conditions were being met.
All right, Brian, so a ton to unpack here.
Commander, the news know everything. You gotta realize they're reporters, yo. They get this shit before we do. The problem with the news is, right, they'll sit here and they'll twist up the truth and the lie. They'll entangle it, right? They'll add, they'll take away. They do whatever they want to do. They manipulate, right? I feel as though they put batteries in people's backs, right, to have them on go mode.
Case is still in the very early stages. The dad is still in the hospital. We heard that he was in jail finally in Columbus.
Yeah, that's one reason we kind of wanted to look at this. I've been here, Mel, since 1998. I've been in Toledo since 1998, and it's obviously the Blade for 20 years. And I don't remember a case that has created this much conversation in the community. And a lot of that conversation, was rumors and I mean, stuff that simply wasn't true. So we thought it'd be interesting to have this, talk today so we could kind of walk people through how we found out about things and what we did to kind of parse out what was true.
Wait. He said a lot of those conversations were about rumors. The crazy part about it is, right, a lot of these people were on Facebook Live, and there were people within the communities that were talking. What's crazy is you even heard a lady on the Facebook Live telling the grandmom, why was she lying to the news reporter when she was, supposedly while she was working, right, she was at that neighbor's house drinking and smoking. So which one was it? Was the grandma working, or was she with that neighbor that was, screaming and yelling, saying, "Why you lying when you was at my house last night? You left that little girl alone." Then you got the rumors. I mean, I'm gonna call them rumors, right? Because I wasn't there, and to me, they're allegedly, right? Where they were saying that they got video of the grandmom scattering Keimani's clothes around the playground. Like, a lot of the stuff don't add up, and I'm just trying to figure out, why is this woman walking free? She should be, behind bars with the key thrown away. Some caskets being built, because Ohio got the death penalty. I wish Philly had it too. Shit. But Ohio got the death penalty.
True, and what wasn't.
Well, there's a lot more people calling themselves reporters out there now. As you saw out at the home the other day, people can pick up a phone and they can type out whatever rumor they want. And we're here to tell you what has been confirmed and what is fact here on Case Files today. So you're really familiar with this. Unfortunately, I was out of town when all this happened, so I'm kind of coming into it as anyone who would be viewing the case doesn't really know a lot about it. But unfortunately, what we have here is a sweet young girl. And there's been a lot made about who was there for her in her life, how she ended up in this position. And this involves some key players and developmental figures in any child's life. You're talking mother, grandmother, and father.
Yeah, and what we found out in looking into this case is that there's family dynamics at play here, where a lot of the family, they do not like each other. The mother and the grandmother, they were...
With our mother and daughter.
Yes, I mean, they're openly hostile, particularly the mother toward the grandmother. And, but we found out about this case.
Well, unfortunately, we live in a society where we got parents against, the children against parents, right? And it seems like Keimani, Latigue's mother and grandmother don't get along, haven't gotten along. That's why, that's why a lot of people are asking these questions, right? How is it that, a judge gave custody to this grandmother with the prior records that she's had? Right? I've never seen that before, right? The same way that I've never seen, officers, just arrest somebody that is innocent, that is not being investigated. You see where I'm coming from? Of a crime. There's so many things that have been done, asshole backwards in this case. And I feel as though that a lot is being, thrown under the rug. Like, I feel as though they're trying to, like, close this, right? Like, trying to get people to forget of certain things they've heard or even seen in certain videos. But, I don't think the Mandela effect works on everybody. That's my opinion, right? It is too much going on. Why is this woman still walking free? Like, let's not forget that the grandmother, right, allegedly, right, according to reports, right, she was the first one to tip off the cops on where Keimani's body was, right? How did you know where Keimani's body was before anybody else knew, right? It is just so much. I mean, there's this one YouTuber that puts the case together, and it's crazy how, right, if what this YouTuber is saying is true, could Keimani's father been the one that had burned that house back then a few years back? The same house that he dumped his daughter in and tried to decapitate her. I mean, it's so much. It's so much. Crazy part about it is, right, Keimani's grandmother's mother owns the house. This is like, I don't know, this is like a town with small little secrets.
Very early on, a lot of times Toledo police will give us a little flyer, so-and-so's missing. For example, we had recently an older man that was missing. We put it in the newscast. People looked for him. We found out today that he's been found safe. So that's what happens a lot of times. We get these flyers. People look for them. They eventually come back, whether they're runaways or whatever. And that's what happened with Keimani. We got a flyer, but then I had somebody that was involved with me in a different story that I did. Keimani was his wife's niece, and he said, could you get together with the grandmother and do a story? But because this isn't like her. She's nearly a straight A student. She'd never run away from home. She wasn't unhappy, and this just isn't like her. So what we did set up an interview with the mother early on.
The mother, the grandmother?
The grandmother, I'm sorry. So the grandmother very early on, and I want to show a clip from that.
And did the grandmother have custody of Keimani?
Yeah, the grandmother was the guardian of Keimani, and we're not exactly sure
How in the world?
We know that she had been with several, Keimani had been with several different.
Even with him, what he's about to say, Keimani's been, thrown around family members. She's been through family member after family member, right? Like, how in the world did they give the grandmother custody with the track record that she has, the background that she has, right? What specific changes or improvements should the Department of Human Services prioritize to address cases of neglect more effectively? What strategies could community members use to ensure that these laws are not just written, but actually actively upheld? And what I mean by that is that each social worker does their job the way they're supposed to do. How can we get these, programs, right, to enforce the policies that, are implemented? Let me ask you all a question. What gaps in the current policies, right, or practices do y'all think, right, are leaving children vulnerable in today's society? Let me repeat the question to y'all again, right? What gaps in the current policies or practices do y'all think are leaving children vulnerable in today's society?
Relatives, guardians in her lifetime, but over the past year, the grandmother had been the guardian for her. But we had this clip with the grandmother, which I want to show right now. And then afterwards, I think we're actually going to have another clip with the mother, because at some point we started having search parties around the community. So we're going to have back-to-back clips when we talk to the grandmother and then when we talk to the mother.
The fact that she left without telling anybody where she was going, I was under the impression that she was supposed to have been at school, because I usually get here right after she leaves for school. And she wasn't here, but I called the school and they said that she wasn't there. So I went to the school just to, I guess, really get the stamp of approval for that. And they stated the same thing. She was not there. And so me and her dad started looking for her.
It would be the world to me. Like this, I hate to, I don't like cursing, but honestly, this is breaking me. I've been falling the apart since I found out. I've legitimately been on social media since the minute I found out, spreading awareness, sending out flyers, contact information, anything to get my baby home. I have not slept in 3 days. I have not ate in 3 days. I have never had a seizure before in my life, sir, and I've had 3 within the past couple days. This is tearing me the up. If my baby don't make it home, I will never be okay again. And I hate to say that because I have other kids.
So what was really interesting about that conversation with the grandmother, at the end of it there, you heard her say, we called her father. And then after that, she said her father's girlfriend actually created these flyers for Keimani, which you saw pasted around town. And that's interesting because later on when...
Man, I'm going to keep saying there's something up with the grandmother and the father, yo. Like, they in cahoots with something. Like, I don't know. What is it? I'm missing a piece of the puzzle to connect those two together. I don't know if it's that, the grandmother's boyfriend is related to the father, right? Which I'm thinking that that's what it is. Some type of, family ties. I don't know. But I feel as though that's what it could be. Like, it is too much, man. Like, How can we push for stronger legal right protections for children and ensure that they are implemented on the ground? Like, how can we make these programs, right, and these laws, these policies be enforced, not just, from the Department of Human Services, but, the Board of Education, right, the judicial system, and in our communities? How can we enforce this? How do we, how do we identify areas of improvement within the Department of Human Services with empathy for those working within the system? Because, boy, I tell you, some social workers make you just want to say, yo, hey, listen, what's up? What's up with you? You ain't doing what you got to do, but you want to, you want to sit here and ignore a family that's neglecting their kids, right? Because you want to fuck with a family that's doing what they got to do. But shit, what if DHS was called on DHS? How would y'all feel? You know how many people I've heard say that? That's the crazy part. That's how bad the Department of Human Services is messing up. It doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter if they're in Detroit. It doesn't matter if they're in Philadelphia. It doesn't matter if they're in Washington, D.C. They could be in fucking Georgia. They're messing up heavy. They're not enforcing their policies. So even if we put new policies, we still have to find a way for them to enforce these policies that are being put in. It was all about her. What about the daughter and what she might be going through? That's some real shit, Commander. Yo, what's something up with this grandma? Why is this grandma still walking? Why is she not behind bars? Why are they trying to cover up, what she said and what she was doing? I mean, what's crazy is the Department of Human Services is trying to cover it up, and so is the judicial system. What's crazy is, right, she shouldn't have no rights over her granddaughter, and she won the court battle. I don't know if you saw the video, right, Commander? I was going to do a live on it, but I was like, nah. And they spoke on it a little bit here. But she won the custody thing with not the custody thing, the rights to bury the daughter. I mean, the granddaughter, Keimani. I'm sitting here as like, wait. First of all, she shouldn't even have rights over this child. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, yeah, you got to watch it, Commander. You got to watch it.
Lucas County Children's Services come in, they say when they went into the house, there was never a mention of the father. So I had just noticed this clip yesterday when we were looking through it, and I don't think we ever reported it, but Dorothy called the father very early on, and what we know now is that the father is actually the suspect in Keimani's murder. So he was helping create the put these flyers together. Mm-hmm. He was in the search party. So,
and yeah. we still don't even know why he allegedly did this, and hopefully that'll come out. I mean, it's just, and we heard the Fraternal Order of Police guy down there in Columbus talk about the condition that Keimani was in, and I think that grabbed a lot of attention and was horrific, of course, and to do this to your own child. Do we know the extent of the relationship between Keimani and her mother, who lives in Cleveland, right?
Yeah, she was in Cleveland. We know that she was paying child support for Keimani.
She was paying child support to Dorothy, the grandmother.
She was. Mm-hmm. But as far as the dynamics, I mean, we were out at Miami Street. I was out at Miami Street, when they found Keimani's body. And I was talking to her mother, and the grandmother was off to the side. And,
a lot of people are surprised that there's never been a mention of the father until recently, right? What's crazy is, right, there's a lot of mothers, all right, that'll say here, it's crazy. Listen, I don't care if people tell you exposing secrets. Hey, let it be what it is. I don't care. To me, it's not a fucking secret. To me, it's a fucking game that you're playing, and it's not fucking cute because there's too many people getting hurt. But at the end of the day, right, it is too many people, too many women out here having sex with men, right? And they don't have the father claim the child. right? And the reason they do that is so that they can get welfare, they can get this and that. But in Keimani's case, I don't know what happened, right? But I could sit here and say that there's a lot of women that do that, right? The father is not on the birth certificate. You see where I'm coming from? It's crazy. It's weird. Don't ask me. All right. That's why I started telling a lot of women, like, y'all wanted this. Now y'all got, the card that y'all got dealt with. Like, shit. Don't play poker if you can't play poker. Shit. Don't go in the kitchen and play with fire if you can't sit here and get burned. The hell? So it's so much going on. So I don't know. That's why I say, like, if she's saying that's the father, she know who the fuck she was in bed with. She know who was, putting it in here. She know who planted that seed. I wasn't in there. I wasn't in the sheets with her. I don't know who the fuck she had in there. So listen, the mom says that that's the father. I don't know. I don't know. I can't go against that. You see where I'm coming from? None of us was in the room when she was making that baby. So listen. I'm going by what the mom says, and I don't know. Like I've been saying, something's off. Something's not right. She do resemble the men, the guy. She resembles Darnell. I mean, a lot of people say she don't resemble him, but if you look good, she does resemble the bull. So I don't know. She got a combination of the mother. If y'all look at the mother and Darnell. I mean, she's not going to look exactly like Darnell, but if y'all peep and look, yeah, she got features of Darnell. Even the smile, especially if y'all look at Darnell pictures when he was younger. But then once again, like I said, I wasn't in the bedroom, so I don't know, which God planted the seed in her, right? But shit, ain't none of them took care of that plant that was growing. None of them watched it flourish right. They misused and abused that plant to the point where they drowned it. For real.
They were yelling at the grandmother a lot. There's not love between the daughter and the grandmother in this case. So,
and we don't know why, because sometimes that can be, and this is just speaking generally from our experience covering stories. In some cases, CSB could come in, or a judge can come in and just say, hey, mom, you're not living the way you need to live to support this child. Custody goes to the grandma. Then a mother could be upset about that. We don't know if that was the case here.
Yeah, we know Tiara had run into some legal issues at some point, which she had admitted, but she seemingly seems to be back on her feet now and doing well. But I think when around the time Keimani was born, there was definitely something going on at that point. So, shortly after we talked to the grandmother and the mother there, we had come in some morning, and there was another media report that said there had been a body found on Miami Street, and that was supposedly related to the Keimani case. So we immediately reached out to the police department, and interestingly, the police department said, their PIO had said, well, I don't know. I don't have any information on that right now, so let me get back to you. And eventually, we got in touch with the grandmother, and she's like, I can't talk right now. They found Keimani over on Miami Street.
And this is really where a lot of people had gathered, and sometimes they do.
It seems like this is the reporter that was interviewing the people, the night that all this was happening. That's what it seems like. But what's crazy is, right, I don't think the reporters got all the info either.
Seen this many times here in Toledo. Someone is found dead or someone shot at a home, and people will gather there. And what happened there, though? Because from my understanding, there were a lot of people with cameras. There was the yelling at Dorothy, the grandmother, as the police are inside this house trying to figure out who this body is.
Yeah, it really was unnerving and a little surreal, but when we were there, there may have been between 50 and 100 people, and 25 to 50 of those people had their phones up in the air doing like live
Facebook
wherever
Live.
they do it, like Facebook Lives or whatever.
That's why I said, like, he's like Facebook Lives or whatever. What the fuck is he? A whole dragon, a pterodactyl putti? Like, you what year is you in? Like, I know you know what Facebook, you're a whole reporter. How you don't know what Facebook, Twitter, Instagram? Listen, don't lie, man. See how they bullshit us? Like, they really do bullshit us, yo. Man, yo, this is crazy. These are conversations that are really needed. You see what these reporters be doing, man? How do we create spaces for open dialogue, right, that allow everyone to feel heard and understood? Man, that's why we have these type of panels, right? Like, I tell people to let me know, sometimes I leave the link down below, man, but I don't know if my earthly goods is going to last me today. But shit, sometimes, I leave the link down, or I'll, somebody wants to hop up, y'all can ask me, hey, can you drop the link? I want to give my perspective, I want to let something out my chest real quick on, the topic and stuff like that. But shit, this is why a lot of us open up these spaces. Let's talk about it. Like I said, these panels are for us to bring solutions. We're not here to debate, argue, or fight, or bash anybody. Let's put solutions on the table. Let's see what we can do, yo. How can we encourage meaningful conversations around parenting? How can we have better conversations with our kids to better understand them? Because it's crazy how a parent, right? Someone that says, I love you, someone that's supposed to protect you, nurture you, right? Help you grow, back you up, right? Can sit here and harm you in ways that you cannot even expect. And people be like, oh my God, I'm shocked. I just heard that this father, sexually assaulted his, child and unalived. Like, there's a lot of stories that are like that. You know that? I'm not shocked. I want to see what can we do, right? Because when it comes to cases like this, right, and I have questions for that too. I feel as though this brings in mental health, right? And let me see, I have a page here where I'm asking about mental health, right? Here we go. In what way can we reduce the stigma around mental health support in light of what this case has revealed? First of all, I feel as though that her father, right, Darnell Jones, suffers from some type of mental health. What he suffers from, I'm not sure. And he should have been seeked help. But I feel as though, I don't know, maybe he didn't care, right? I feel as though with the grandmother knowing what was going on, right, she should have took a different route in this, situation, but she didn't. So it shows me, right, either she didn't care or she was just doing this to do it, to just prove something either to somebody else or to herself. I'm not sure what it is, right? But the way the grandmom talks about this little girl compared to how the community speaks about her is a whole. Even the mother has a good, has nothing bad to say about Keimani. But the grandmother? I'm saying here, this is crazy. Huh. So I'm going to ask y'all again, right? The question that I asked earlier. Has this case changed your perspective on the way a mother, a father, or grandparents are viewed as, right? Is viewed as, or should be viewed as nowadays? Because parents are more than capable of unaliving their own seed.
It was just a weird thing to see, all these phones being held up, as the police. And we could see the detectives on the top floor of Miami Street. That's where her body was found. You could see them through the windows because it's like a burned out building, and you could see them working, setting up the lights, taking pictures. But what we didn't know, and we're actually going to have a clip about this too, is that the mother, she was kind of in the front of this crowd. The grandmother is off to the side. They're kind of trying to keep her out of the way. And the mother was getting very agitated, and she was very angry.
Oh, we do that already.
The police weren't letting her know, is this my daughter? I just want to know that. So we actually have a clip of talking to the mother that day.
I just want to know if it's my baby. They still not telling me nothing. It takes nothing. It's nothing to take a picture. It's nothing to, let me know when the coroner's bringing her out so I can see if that's indeed my baby. Y'all not saying nothing.
I think what
And y'all can tell if it's a grown ass woman or if it's a little kid.
Why is this reporter acting that this is not the normal reaction of a mother? Listen, whether, she was in her life forever or was in and out of her life, right? Listen, I'm going to cut this shit down the middle, right? We're going to be neutral about this shit. A mother's still going to have feelings for her child. Like, listen, her child got taken from this earth. So it's kind of like, whether she was in and out of her life, we can't sit here and say, well, no, she can't have no feelings toward her child. Like, we don't know that. You see where I'm coming from? People change. And according to the mother and according to certain, other people, the mom was trying to get the daughter back. I'm going to sit here and tell y'all, once the system takes your child from you, it is not an easy battle to win. It is not an easy battle. I've seen people sit here and go through parenting classes, go through this, go through that, and still haven't gotten their child back. You know when they've gotten in contact with their kids? When their kid was able to come out the system by the age of 18. I don't even know if it's 21 now. But I know at one point it was 18. So it could still be 18, it could be 21. I don't know what the way shit is, the way things change, how the things change. Listen, don't get me to lie. So I'm just saying that people shouldn't be shocked. That's it.
My daughter tall, but she still has the body of a child. You know the difference.
So what are they telling you?
They're not telling me nothing. They ain't told me nothing. Not a word. Then they talking about it might be days before I be able to identify my child. Like, no.
What have you been told up until this point?
Yeah, so what ended up happening here, probably within an hour or so after that, the body was removed from the house. I think somebody gave us a heads up that the body's coming.
The grandmother.
They took the family off to the side, and we saw the police talking to them. And at some point, Tiara comes kind of back up the road, and she falls to her knees, and she starts crying. So,
well, police, they have to preserve evidence.
Absolutely.
A coroner is the only one who can come in and declare somebody dead, so they've got to wait for that person to get there. But so there's an arrest warrant for the dad issued on 3/23, March 23rd. Body is found on the 24th. So at this point, is it public knowledge that the dad is wanted for well, at this, okay, so he was wanted before the body was found. Now it's a murder, okay? Right. It's a homicide. So is it known at the time when the body is found that Darnell, the dad, is the main suspect here?
Absolutely. So the day before, he was charged with a felony charge of abduction from a residence.
Right.
And there was something in the arrest warrant about surveillance video, phone records, and I know somebody who was in that house at various times, and he had told me—
In the Miami house?
Not in the Miami house, in the Elm Street house, which is where Keimani lived.
Okay.
And he had told me, this was before Darnell had even been charged, and he said, look, there's a Ring doorbell, there's cameras on the house, so they would have seen who came to get her. So Darnell's story that he later told to media was that Keimani called me around midnight, said guys were trying to break into the house. I went over there and sat outside the house with my cousin. We stayed till about 12:30, 1 o'clock, and then we left. But
so trying to explain why you might see him on the camera,
yes,
I guess?
Yes,
okay.
But I mean, we can only speculate at this point, but we do know that there was surveillance on that house, and you would have to speculate that they must have seen him either approaching the door, maybe taking Keimani from the house. So we knew before her body was even found that he was certainly a suspect in her kidnapping. And then when her body was found, he became...
You talk about him taking Keimani. Listen, according to, the mom, according to the grandmom, he had permission, to take Keimani out before. So what if, in that moment, oh, that's my dad, Keimani would have left with him. And I'm not saying that what he said is true. What I'm saying is, how do we know that I don't think that he would have had to snatch her. I feel as though that because she's been with him out of the house before, she could have walked off with him. See, the police has videos, right? They got evidence and stuff like this of everything that's going on. What's taking them long to, release certain things? Because, they allegedly got evidence of him with another man, right? Leaving, I think it's his car and another man. I'm not sure, right? Or I'm not sure if it's witnesses, right? But they got witness statements. They got, according to, reports, they got surveillance tapes and stuff like that. So what's taking them so long to release it? What's taking them so long to arrest the grandmom? Why is the grandmom even still able to, have parts in the burial of the granddaughter when it feels and it looks like she had parts of her getting unalived? And if the community feels like this and people that are reviewing and reacting to this case have the same, vibe, same, I don't know, intuition, like how is it that the police department is not grasping this? Yo, what can each of us do in our own small way to foster understanding and healing in future situations like this?
The main suspect in the murder, and he was quickly charged with murder.
Do we know yet how police identified that Miami house? Maybe they took his cell phone and drew a circle around the Miami Street house. Is that how they found out to look there?
I mean, we know that they got some sort of tip. The police got a tip about that house, and this house, it had caught on fire. I think like 5 years ago.
It was
completely burned out. Nobody was living there. The person that actually owns it is living in New Jersey. He planned on raising it and turning it into a parking lot. So we know that there was a tip that brought them to Miami Street. We don't know who that tipster was.
You know who it is.
But, after this happened,
why he keeps saying we don't know? He know who gave him that. You're a whole reporter, so you telling me that you're reporting on this case, but you don't know. You just seem to know nothing. Just what everybody already seems to know. So what is you reporting on? Like, what is you copying and pasting what everybody's doing and saying? Like, wouldn't that make you a copycat?
After the body was found, one of our reporters, Silver Barker, who we actually have joining us here, she actually had this exclusive interview with the grandmother where she talked about some really big questions that a lot of people had about the family. And I think we have Silver here with us.
Hey, Silver, you were able to...
Hi, Mel. Hi.
Hey, she's in Columbus, and we're going to get to that in a minute. There was actually a hearing for Darnell Jones today, and we're going to get to that in a bit. But you really were the reporter that did so much of this work here on this case. There's been a lot of talk about, like we were saying, the relationships with the adults that Keimani had in her life, the people who are supposed to be taking care of her. And you talked to the grandma, Dorothy, who had custody of her. Tell me about this false arrest. I have never heard about anything like this happening, or
Neither have I.
police or any police agencies participating in something like this. Fill us in what happened from what Dorothy told you in this interview.
Yeah, absolutely, Mel. Well, obviously, I wanted to ask this question because a lot of videos circulated online of, Dorothy being arrested, or it was believed to be that she was arrested. So I asked her in the interview, I said, hey, there's video and showing that you were arrested, but police told us that was not the case. So what happened? And she explained to me that after the body was found and, the relationship that you guys mentioned earlier between the mom, Tiara, and Dorothy, there was a lot of tension between family members, friends, and people who were also there on the scene of the body being found. And a lot of people were yelling at her, saying they were going to do things to her. She told me, this is what she says. So she felt unsafe, and so she decided she wanted to be cuffed to make it look like she was being arrested, is what she told us.
Yeah, Silver, actually, let's take a moment here and
Yo, has anybody ever been in a situation where, you know, y'all told the cops, right, to put the cuffs on y'all so that people, you know, wouldn't sit here and do something? I mean, man, I don't know. And I've never seen a cop actually give a fuck.
actually play that clip of her talking about this fake arrest.
Well, I was called and told that there was a mob of people in front of my house. They were angry. It was more or less the people that were here earlier waiting to see if it was Keimani that was in the home. And basically some people from the neighborhood had contacted me and said that there was a mob in front of my house and they were talking about what they were going to do to me once I came home. So the police, the detective, said that she would have a unit come out and help me get my things and more or less escort me off the property. I asked to be handcuffed just so they can get the fuck away from my property.
Yeah, and Silver, this is really interesting because we were seeing all these social media videos, and it was clear that she was being led from the house in handcuffs.
He saw all the social media videos, but at first he didn't know what Facebook was. Get out. Yo, this reporter is weird. I swear to God, I know I'm not tripping.
And it was clear that she was being led from the house in handcuffs. There was a large police presence there. There was a large community presence there where they were, you know, shouting at her. And it looked like she was being arrested. And we actually reached out to, well, you actually reached out to the police department and we were trying to get clarification. Was she arrested? What was going on? And we kind of got a couple different answers from the police about what was happening. So that was just a really weird situation. I don't know if you have anything more you want to say about how the police kind of explained that away.
Could they be letting the grandmother Dorothy go because she probably, was she the one that gave everything up? What do you call it when they, you know, when you give a statement on somebody else, right? And you get like immunity or something like that. Could that have been what she did? I don't know. Something's not right. Something's not right.
Yeah, I mean, we had been told that it was a ruse, and we questioned, I mean, is that even allowed? Because like you said, I mean, I've never seen anything working in my time as a journalist either of someone being arrested or requesting to be arrested. So we were told it was a ruse. We were also told it was for her own safety. So like you said, we were told multiple things, and we haven't yet figured out what was the case, but we were told the same from the grandmother is for her safety.
Did you get the impression that she wanted to be handcuffed so she wouldn't go after these people who were harassing her? Or did you get the impression that she wanted people off her back and to think that maybe she was in the custody of police? And then if that was the case...
I got the impression that Dorothy is a bullshitter. And I respect my elders, right? But yo, when they act like this and they disrespectful, rude, ignorant, I don't know, bad vibes, and something about Dorothy just gives me bad vibes. I don't know what it is, but I really got bad vibes off her. Attitude just stinks. And what I've heard about her, just like, I don't know. It's just...
Didn't she realize that it would eventually be found out that she wasn't arrested and that the same pressure would come back to her?
Right? That's a good question. That should never made sense, right? Because if they found out that they didn't arrest her, right, and that they got played, wouldn't that have been worse for Dorothy? That's what I'm saying. Like, why talk about that? You know, why fake the arrest? I don't understand. And then why would the police department go with that, knowing that they would get lashed back too? It's a lot in this story doesn't add up. It is so much that they've been covering up. I feel as though, like, I don't know, they just straight up lying. I'm not talking about the lady, but this reporter too. He hiding something, holding something back.
Well, that's a good point, Mel. I mean, I
I'll start
think,
it now.
in my opinion, I believe that it was to get everyone, like she said, off her back, she said, because she says there was a lot of people yelling at her, like saying they were going to do things to her, she says. So I think it was more to make it look like she did get arrested so people would stop saying, you know, she deserves this, she deserves that. And I think that's the reason she requested to be handcuffed. It seemed like we were having that interview and she was talking to me.
Have you ever heard of anything like this?
No, even she shocked.
And for a moment there, I'm like, is this even ethical? Or the
Have y'all? Yo, be honest. Has anybody ever heard or seen officers do this within your community? Be real. Yo, this shit is wild. I guess Dorothy is special.
police allowed to do
I had the
this?
same question.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess they are.
Well,
but Silver, this really was a remarkable interview, and it's a very difficult interview. So at this point, you're talking to a grandmother who a lot of the community is accusing her of being involved somehow.
Well, so that's my question. At this time, when people are coming out of the grandmother and harassing her and you're interviewing her, is the information from CSB known?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Yeah,
Is
did we
information from
know?
what?
Did we know anything about CSB? Were the calls to hear more from children's services
Yes.
out there yet? At the time
Yes.
that you're talking to the grandma and all these people are coming out against the grandma, did we know anything
All that
from
shit was
children's
out.
services yet?
Yeah. Don't say no.
So no, we did not know anything from Children's Services. Like I said, there was a lot of things said online and people mentioning.
How you did not know about children's services if the teacher was out there giving out, flyers talking about let's find Keimani, and during, I think a news reporter interviewed her and she said it. She was the first one that said it. Then they asked the grandmom, and the grandmom said, "Well, yes, I don't know if y'all remember when the grandmom was talking about, yes, that even DHS had to tell her how to discipline and chastise her own child." And I'm sitting here like, why would it DHS have to sit here and teach you how to chastise and discipline your own child? And then my thing is, right, when DHS was in there, didn't they notice your background? You're telling me that they did not see your background, the history that you have. Something is not right here. The Department of Human Services is lacking. Completely slacking.
Things. So we were wondering, well, let's ask the question. So at that time in the interview, that's why I did ask the grandmother, well, hey, have you ever been looked into by Child Protective Services? And that's when she admitted that she was looked into twice, and schools had reported, and that's when we, spoke with a teacher who spoke out from Bennett Venture Academy. So, but before that, we didn't know. So I think that interview there uncovered that. And
before that, y'all is OMG. I'm done. She's saying before that, nobody knew. I mean, something made you ask the question, right? You know what?
Revealed
I
that
can't.
she had to talk about, Child Protective Services had to tell her how to properly discipline a child.
Right, and we actually have that soundbite, so let's play that right now, and then we can talk about it.
She was not abused. Yes, she was chastised whenever she was wrong or did things wrong. Other than that, she was not abused. She was not just whooped for no reason or just
Why don't
because
y'all
I
show the
felt
question?
like it.
See how they cut off the part where the question was asked? That's why I was like, no, man, be truthful, because there's a reason y'all asked the question.
I've went through this twice because the school system had contact.
She went through this twice, right? Because the school system had contacted, right? But according to Child Protective Services, they have no record of any employees from the school, right, contacting them on Keimani Latigue's case. Prior, right? To a year prior. But twice, a year, in the year prior, before her getting unalived, DHS popped up in this woman's house twice for this young lady. They opened and shut the case up fast. Aren't y'all supposed to take pictures? If the teacher saw bruises, Y'all telling me y'all didn't see the bruises? That wasn't enough to sit here and open an investigation? Put the grandmother in parenting classes? Why did y'all have to sit here and have conversations with her on how to chastise? I mean, I thought that y'all job was to put her in parenting classes and much more. Hold up, wait a minute. I think a lot of the parents that kids were taken from them, right? That they wasn't abusing their kids. I think, DHS and y'all have a conversation. DHS, a lot of parents want to have a convo with y'all. Where y'all at? Where y'all at?
The CSP or CSB on her behalf when she went to Bennett Academy. And they came in, they did a case study and closed it. Because she was just chastised.
Tell her how to properly
Oh, shit.
Then we can talk about it.
She was not abused. Yes, she was chastised whenever she was wrong or did things wrong. Other than that, she was not abused. She was not just whooped for no reason or just because I felt like it. I've went through this twice because the school system had. I've went through this twice because the school system had contacted CSP or CSB on her behalf. I've went through this twice because the school system had contacted CSP or CSB on her behalf when she went to Bennett Academy. CSP twice because I felt like it. I've went through this twice because the school system had contacted CSP or CSB on her behalf when she.
The school had contacted CSB on her behalf, which means that Keimani asked the teacher for help, which means that what the teacher was saying, right? The little clip, which y'all will hear here, y'all going to hear the teacher talking, that when the teacher was speaking was true. The teacher was not lying, saying that Keimani was scared to go back home. But according to, the grandmom and police, Keimani was not scared to come home. Wait. Uh-oh. Something's not right. Uh-oh. How can we encourage meaningful conversations around parenting? How can we have better conversations with our kids to better understand them? As parents, how can we show our kids they can come to us for anything? I feel as though that Keimani could have went to her mom, for anything, but she didn't trust her yet or didn't know her enough yet. This is a sad story. This is a real sad story.
Went to Bennett Academy and they came in, they did a case study and closed it. They've stated there's a way to chastise children without physically harming them. You need to whoop them on their behind, nowhere else. So, okay, with that in mind, I knew that. So she didn't have like bruises all over.
So you're telling me that DHS had to sit here and teach a grown woman that had kids prior. Oh, my bad. DHS took those kids too. But a grown woman that had grown kids prior to Keimani Latigue, how to chastise. But if she didn't know how to, chastise and discipline the kids that she had prior, which were her own kids, and they were taken by CPS, how do y'all expect her to learn this time? Y'all think y'all could teach old dogs tricks? Let me see. Can we trick? I don't know. We could try to teach an old dog a trick, but I don't think he's gonna want to comprehend it. By that time he's old and lazy. He just want to lay around the house and not do shit. You can lead a horse to water, but can you make the horse drink it? Come on, man. Let's be real.
I mean, that really was, credit to you for even asking her that question, because that was a very uncomfortable question. And it really was fascinating that she actually came out and said, yeah, they taught me, or they showed me the proper way to discipline my child. I mean, I did not think there was a proper way. I just assumed you could not hit your child. But she said, yeah, they showed me with the open hand and you.
I swear this report, yo, something is wrong with Eggman over here, yo. I can't. He said I just assumed that you cannot hit your child. Wait a minute. He didn't. No, he said I did not. I didn't know there was a proper way. I just assumed you can. I wonder if he has kids. I mean, if your child does something wrong, you pop them here and there. Pop. Not sit here and beat your child, abuse your child. You pop your child in the hand. Like, but yes, there's a proper way to hit your child, fool. What is wrong with some people? I just can't.
You hit them where you're not going to leave a mark.
I hate when they say you hit them where you're not going to leave a mark. Do y'all know how many abusive parents do that? And they get away with murder because they'll sit here and hit their kid, right? And they'll hit their kid in they'll beat their kid in ways where they won't leave a mark. You know how some abusive husbands would sit here and get away with murder because they would beat their wives in ways where they wouldn't leave marks or bruises? Yeah, that does exist. So I hate when they give that reference or they try to give that advice. And I sit here like, y'all do know that y'all sitting here giving abusers a way out, right? It's like a little get out of jail free card. Let me do this. And, since there's no marks, no nothing, they're not going to know. This motherfucking Dr. Robotnik's looking motherfucker over here is really giving this advice. He must not have children. I'm hoping the chick over here don't agree.
What did you think when she said that?
I found it very interesting in that during that time in that interview, Brian, I really did not expect her to open up and admit that and talk about that past. I mean, that opened a pathway, of course, for us to now then reach out to Child Protective Services and see there in Lucas County. So I didn't think that she would say that in the interview. So when she did, that kind of gave me a way to keep asking more questions. And like you said, it wasn't easy asking those questions, I'll be honest, getting very into the exactly what all happened and really just trying to understand exactly what she's saying and getting further behind, just what was reported previously or what we're finding out from officials. So it was a little bit of a harder interview, but again, I think those are important and crucial to information we're learning.
Yeah, and Silver, you actually got other really interesting information. This is how we found out that Darnell was down in Columbus and that he'd been shot, right? The grandmother told you this.
Yeah, the grandmother, I asked her anytime, I said, well, do you know where Darnell Jones is right now? Because at that time of the interview, we did not know yet just exactly what was happening with Darnell Jones. Yeah.
Well, I have a question too for both of you. I mean, now we've talked about all of the adult caregivers in her life. We've talked about children's services. Did they fail Keimani? Is that a part of the conversation? I mean, ultimately, her dad ended up being the one to come in and allegedly kill her, didn't end up really having anything to do with the grandmother, but then you have the mother saying, should the grandmother have let her go with him? I mean, from what we know now, and we do have sound from Lucas County Children's Services, but did they bear any responsibility here?
Nope.
Are we holding
They
them
deny it.
accountable in any way, and do we need to?
I mean, the community is certainly asking those questions. I mean, the one thing that they said is that we'd been to the house 2 times. The last time was about a year before Keimani disappeared and was killed. And interestingly, the grandmother in that conversation with Silver said, well, they were here 7 months ago. So I don't know whether she just got her time frame kind of screwed up there, but that was interesting. And during those visits, they said nobody ever mentioned Darnell Jones. Nobody ever mentioned a father. Nobody had any idea who the father was, which is interesting because, again, when you saw that first interview with Dorothy at the beginning of the show, she mentioned she immediately called the father. So what we don't know is whether the father came into Keimani's life within the past year, after the time that Lucas County.
What I would like to know is, why was the mother keeping the father a secret. Well, you know what? I kind of get why the mom would there's so many reasons why the mom she could have, listen, I'm not going to get into it. I would have to ask the mom. Would she be honest about it? That's what we don't know. But the grandmother, now that's a good question. If you didn't know the father, why would you let him in the... I mean, obviously he must have been there for a while. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think he's been there. Even the girlfriend of the father, said that, Keimani will be there on the weekends too. The mother never denied the fact that that was the father. I just think that the father had mental health issues. If y'all go back and y'all do y'all research and look into, the father's videos of him, acting a little crazy. I might have a video here. Might end up might do another, because I'm waiting for another update on this. I'm trying to see if they're gonna bring the grandma down. So I might let this go for a little bit, and then we might retouch, just do a whole live on this open panel, let people come up on the panel and talk. But I don't know. We'll see. This is crazy.
Children's Services got involved. Yeah, there's certainly a lot of questions, and that's why there's a task force formed, and they're going to look into it.
And the two instances that were brought forth to Lucas County Children's Services, who did they find responsible for that? Dorothy?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were a couple different teachers maybe that had reached out, or they had got to multiple reports that Keimani was seen with like bruises, and yeah, I mean, she was clearly living with Dorothy at that point. Now, they did ask Keimani, do you feel safe in the home? And she said, I do, on both cases. And, I mean, Children's Services can't take Keimani out of that home, but they can ask a court to take her out.
It's also a hard question to ask a 14-year-old who may be being abused. Do you feel comfortable there? That child could be scared of any retribution in the home or anywhere else. So, I want to bring in Silver again. Silver, do you know, did they talk about the ways in which they investigated these reports? I would hate to think that it was just, hey, do you feel comfortable in your home?
That's exactly what it was.
A child could certainly just give the answer that'll keep them in the least amount of trouble. We don't know if that was the case. So did they tell you exactly how they investigated these reports?
So I'm not exactly sure just how they investigated these reports. I know that they talked to Keimani, as we previously reported in the past, but I'm not exactly sure what questions or what they asked. There's some things that they said can't be revealed as well, but I do want to talk a little bit about the father thing that I think is interesting, of how LCCS mentioned that there was no father. Darnell Jones mentioned. I think trying to figure out exactly when did he come into her life, I think that's critical and key and important. And even when I asked the mother, she told me that was the biological father, but the grandmother says she was told by the mother that wasn't. So I think that's a thing that's interesting as well to know. But as far as
all this back and forth about this, it's so simple. Y'all take his DNA and y'all match it to, it's crazy to say it, but it's the truth. If everybody is so unsure if he is the father of this child, a simple DNA test will prove if he is the biological father or not. According to the mom, it is. I mean, the mom is the one that sat here and fucked the man. Shit. Was y'all the one was y'all there? Did y'all witness who she was with? Did y'all see who planted the seed? I'm sorry I'm getting like this, but it's crazy. I mean, and it's been shown in history that women, sometimes don't put the father on the birth certificate. They may have their reasons. Hey, I'm not there with them. Shit, I wouldn't blame her either. She didn't put him in the birth certificate. But if he was, the way they make him seem to be, I wouldn't have left him around my kids either. So I'm a little like, everybody in this joint is to blame. Everybody in this case is to blame for the loss of this child. Everyone failed this child.
What I've learned from LCCS, we've had other reporters as well who've been working on that and keeping in touch with that part. But we know that they've had conversations with Keimani, but not the exact details as to what those conversations look like.
The other thing, Brian, is it's very, very rare for us to be able to get anything out of Lucas County Children's Services, similar to a school system, which can cite FERPA, federal protection laws. People can cite HIPAA. It's very difficult to get anything out about these cases or any claims into Lucas County Children's Services. So why do you think that they did agree to speak to the media about this? You feel like they felt they had to?
I mean, yeah.
Because of the outrage?
You're right, because juvenile records, we can never get juvenile
Especially
records.
about child abuse.
Oh, we got the beautiful Miss V in the building. Blessings, Miss V. How you doing this morning, guys? Make sure y'all go check out MTGV Crime Podcast. Yo, she has covered this case too, man, and she does a great breakdown on this case, y'all. Right? She has great cases that she has covered, broken down, man. I feel as though that she has a great crime podcast channel, right? And if y'all into crimes, right, Miss V is the channel to go to, yo. Like, yo, she's just great vibes when you go to her channel. I swear to God, great inspiration. I just love Miss V. Make sure y'all will check her out, man. Y'all will not be disappointed. Miss V, you can leave your link down below, right? For those of y'all that, don't know, she has also covered this case. And she has a great breakdown and her own perspective on it, too.
Absolutely. So I think there is such a tremendous community outcry. There are a lot of rumors going around, and there were a lot of people, frankly, that were accusing Dorothy of many different things. And I think, just not only for her safety, but for community's well-being, they kind of needed to get out there and try to appear to be transparent, or be as transparent as they could be.
Do you think we can put a pin in this, or do you think there's still more questions to be answered from Lucas County Children's Services?
I think there's going to be a investigation, and they're going to hopefully.
You think like an internal investigation there will be?
Yeah, I mean, I know
because this task force has explicitly.
You're welcome, Ms. V. See, like I asked earlier, right? I said, should social services hire more staff, find a better training system for social workers, and enforce the laws and policies? If so, what solutions can we bring to the table, and how can we enforce them? What do y'all think are the most overlooked aspects of this case that deserve the more attention, right? And I feel as though, like, all right, people are so focused on the father, right, that we already know he's guilty. He needs to be put away, key thrown. I listen, somewhere in La La Land, right along with Peter Pan, right? I got that nigga in charge of, watching the caskets for me. We got one right there for Darnell Jones, because I feel as though, in his situation, there's no cure, no rehabilitation, no punishment that would cure this man. 10 feet underground. Hashtag let's put all pedophiles away. Hashtag we building caskets up in this joint. But we're not gonna let the grandma slide, yo. She has parts. Was she in it with him? That's where the confusion comes in. But I feel as though she was. I feel as though she got tired. I feel as though she wanted to hurt her daughter, and by doing that, she did this. So there could be a possibility that Tiara, Keimani's mother, was probably fighting for her daughter. We don't know. The way CPS, DHS is handling this case, we don't know. A lot of shit has been withheld. You see where I'm coming from? The way the judicial system is handling this case, we don't know. We got judges sitting here giving grandmothers custody of a child, right, with a background that Dorothy had. There's no way in hell. No wonder they didn't mention the father. If the father was around for a long time, with the background that he has, because the grandmother admits in some of the interviews that she knew, I'm so disappointed. I'm so this. You deceived me. Even with your background, I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt. Oh, Darnell, why did you play me? She got all Shakespeare on us and then got a whole grumpy attitude. Like, bitch, please, get the fuck out my face, yo. You had parts in this shit, yo. I just wish that the, police would release all of videos, all the footage that they got. I don't know, maybe I could be wrong. But I feel as though the grandmom got parts. And CPS knows it. And they know they fucked up when they opened and closed the case. And that's what they're trying to throw under the rug. So they're trying to pull a Mandela effect on us. I'm telling y'all, watch little by little how this case, they're going to start, detracting shit from it and start taking shit away from the internet, hiding shit. You see, so that we forget. Nah, man, say her name loud and clear. Keimani Latigue, may she have peace in paradise, yo. Keep saying her name. So that in future cases, we can bring justice to all the kids out here that we building caskets for. Because it's to the point where we're building caskets no longer than 3 feet to lay underground. And nobody feeling God's fury. Nobody. Y'all keep thinking God doesn't have a temper. Shit, when he smites y'all with that thunder, y'all gonna fucking remember that man got a temper. I don't know what chapter of the Bible y'all keep reading. Talking about, oh, God is, all kind and generous. He won't hurt a soul. Shit. I wonder why somebody ended up in the belly of a whale then. Shit.
Explicitly said its purpose is not to investigate this case. So do you think there will be some sort of an internal investigation or otherwise into children's services and this case specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that 100%, but I would have to think that they're certainly looking at the way they handle similar situations like this going forward.
And I just heard from our producer Josh that Randy Muth, who is the executive director, did ask the state to investigate. Is that to your knowledge as well?
That's my understanding, that the state is going to be involved. And one of the reasons, I had asked one of the reporters, I said, look, when you're at this news conference, ask them if they ever asked the court to remove Keimani from the house. And, he was very dismissive and said, well, no, we didn't, and the court never would have done that. But one of the things I was thinking in my mind is like, look, we want him to say, did you or didn't you? Because if the state comes back and they find fault in their investigation and something should have been done, we now have him on camera saying, look, we did not ask them to take her out of the house.
One of the things, and we've had, this kind of a story affects everyone. Even in our newsroom, we talk about this little girl, Keimani, and we talk about the questions we all have as parents. And we've also done a lot of stories over the years about fostering, just in many cases in general. And one of the questions that a couple of us as parents raised during all this is, there's a very big push always to keep a child with a blood relative should their parent not be able to care for them. But when does that go too far? When does a child do better with someone who may be a stranger but is loving and caring? And we're not saying that Dorothy wasn't.
Or maybe if y'all do these background checks and not give custody to people that have dark backgrounds like that. Yo, Dorothy has a background on her. What makes a judge or, anybody in the system sit here and give custody to someone with a background like Dorothy's? I'm just trying to figure that one out. And if if what the daughter is saying, what Tiara is saying, Dorothy's daughter, right, the mother of Keimani, is saying, Dorothy was a bad mom. Like, she was nothing more than just a monster. Like, you sat here and try to take your daughter's child away. Why? Because you ain't like your daughter? You ain't love your daughter? What? You was missing what? To give her daughter the same type of love you gave her? This woman has an icebox where her heart should be.
Isn't that way. We don't know that. But I think that has to be a part of the conversation too. If there is an investigation, is, when is it better for the child to be with this person versus this person who may just happen to be a blood relative?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very fair question because, look, again, like you said, we don't know what Dorothy and Keimani's relationship was like. I mean, we know what we've heard, but we don't know 100%. But there are certainly people accusing her of things, and, you know, if they are true, again, we don't know that they are, but yes, could somebody else have cared for her better?
Yeah.
You never know.
Let's bring in Silver again. She's got some reports to do today, again, more on this. But Silver, and then we can circle back. I think it's okay to circle back. There was a hearing this morning for Darnell. That's why you're in Columbus today. Tell us what happened. Is he still in the hospital? Because I know we had heard that he had maybe gone to jail at this point. Tell us the latest that you know here as of April 10th.
Yeah. So we're not sure if he is still in the hospital right now. Multiple sources at this time have told me that he is still healing from his injuries. That's why he actually didn't appear today in court for the arraignment. We're still learning to work more details of exactly why, but like I mentioned earlier, multiple sources say he's still healing and they want him to heal up a little bit more before he is in court to face his charges. They also said that they're going to give 15 days for Lucas County to pick him up from Franklin County Court here and give him 15 days to be charged over there in Lucas County. They're going to pick him up within those 15 days, like I mentioned, and charge him over there with his, of course, murder charge and the abduction charge. Now, keep in mind, he still has a felonious assault charge here in Columbus that he has to face, but Franklin County says they want Lucas County to pick him up first within those 15 days.
All right.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and that's been a
They're going to hit him with the murder charges first. Watch.
question of many people is like, where is he going to be tried first? Is he going to be tried in Columbus or is he going to be tried in Lucas County? And
I think they want him in Columbus. They gonna charge. They gonna hit him with the murder charges first. Then they're gonna hit him with everything else. I feel as though, listen, man, Ohio, y'all got the death penalty. Give it to him. I know some people be like, oh, that's too sweet, man. Jail is too sweet. That man don't have a soul. That man doesn't have a soul. Like, man, the death penalty. Let him rot in hell. Let him get judged down there. For real, man. Because only the guilty go to hell. For real.
in our belief, and I think based off
If it does exist. But I feel as though hell is here.
what you've just said too, is that they're probably going to try the more serious charge, the murder charge,
That makes sense. That makes
in
sense.
Lucas County.
And allow the people here to move on with their lives, the grandmother, Dorothy, and mom.
Yeah, but I actually wonder if we can go back, and I know we saw this previously, but the actual body cam of when Darnell was actually caught by police and he ended up getting shot.
Come here, man.
Don't do it.
What's your name?
Just kill me.
Dude.
He was on a suicide mission there.
Now, pull your hand out here. I swear to God, pull your...
Shots fired. Shots fired. Dennis in a second.
I ain't gonna sit here and lie. I wanted Karma to catch him. But I think Karma got bigger plans for him. I'm trying to figure out what it is, though.
Don't f***ing move.
Alright, suspect's down. All you guys are okay.
Don't move. He's got 33 right there.
33 in his hand.
Talk about this a little bit.
Walkie-talkie, but there's 33s right here. Don't you move or you're going to get shot, okay? All right? Got it. Yep. That's him. Somebody get on the
main air. Get us a medic.
I'm working on it.
All right, on your belly. All right. I got cuffs. There you go. Thank you, brother. We'll get you help, okay?
So did the Columbus police know who they were dealing with at this point?
Yeah.
Bring us up to what happened here.
Yeah, they did know, and I think what we learned is that Columbus was actually kind of staking him out for a couple days. They knew that he had possibly fled to Columbus, and one of his addresses, when we do background searches on him, is actually in Columbus. It wasn't this location, but we know that he had ties to Columbus. So they were watching him for a couple days, and he looks much different than he did in Toledo. He shaved his head.
Obviously,
But a
he was
couple
running.
interesting things about this Cam is that when the police approached him, you know, he said, "Go ahead and kill me." And then later on, when he is down and they're working on him, you know, he says, "I can't feel my legs," but he's like, "Just let me die." And a police officer says to him, like, "Look, man, it's never as bad as you think it is." And Darnell responds,
I don't feel bad. The boy was guilty at the moment. The demons was running. Yeah, man, that was his torture. What he did, like anybody, like, come on, like, what real father could sit here and live with that for real, for real? That's why he was on a suicide mission. But if he really wanted to unalive himself, he would have did it himself. If he really was that guilty, he would have did it himself. He wasn't that guilty. He'll be over that shit in a few. I'm telling you, man. And after now that he's just been, you know, shot up, I'm telling y'all, that man feeling like he borrowed a pair of God slippers.
"Yeah, it's bad." So at that point, hearing him say these things, I mean, it certainly doesn't sound like an innocent man, but
of course he's not innocent.
We'll find out what the court system says.
And Keimani's body was found on the 24th. When did this shooting happen?
I don't remember, but I think it was the day after.
This reporter sucks.
Day after. So her body had already been found, and he was aware of what condition, allegedly, if he did this, that she was left in.
Yeah, because, and again, we were wondering what exactly happened to Keimani, and we don't know exactly. I mean, you can certainly speculate when a young girl is taken and then she shows up in an abandoned house and killed. But, you know, they had a Columbus union official who came out, and we saw that at the very beginning, but he said this was a most horrific crime. You know, her hands were cut off, her head was nearly cut off, she'd been raped. And I mean, this was beyond anything that we were even speculating.
Yeah.
And it was very surprising that somebody in a different city was the one to reveal this information.
Right, it sure was. You know, the memorial is probably bigger than any I've ever seen here. And I was talking to Megan Hartnett. We've had her on the show before. She went out and covered the memorial at one point, and there were elderly people coming by. There were all kinds of people. This is in its infancy stages, to be honest with you. This is some early video of it, but you know, what do you think it is, Brian, about this case that has brought so many people out there? I mean, certainly you can speculate that it's the thought of kind of this.
It might be that people are getting tired within communities of things like this happening. Maybe some people have, you know, empathy in their hearts, right? What if it was their child? Some people don't just, you know, care about their child. They care about the kids that are walking these trenches with their kids. Because people fail to realize or forget that their kids, you know, the majority of our kids out here do not walk alone. They walk within groups. So it's kind of like, listen, man, we live in a twisted society.
Little girl who, by all accounts, was a wonderful person, and was she just caught up in a circle of people who could have and should have done more for her? Was it that her father is accused of doing this to her? What is it, do you think, about Keimani in this story that is...
What I don't understand is with the record of child abuse, it's like neither the mom or the grandmom did their research on the dad, right? But he has a history. And a part of that history is that there's a prior record of him having child abuse. I mean, even though they opened it and closed it fast, right? That shows you. Listen, if somebody walks into my life and there is a history of any type of child abuse, right, or sexual abuse, right? They're in the registry or something like that. I choose to walk away. I don't even want to give you a chance or the benefit of the doubt.
Touched so many people.
Yeah, and I've asked myself that question a lot. I think the big thing is that this was a 13-year-old girl. She's very sweet looking. She's very beautiful, and her body is found in an abandoned, burned out house, and her father is charged with killing her. I mean, it really doesn't get any more horrific than that. And I think it's also that the whole community feels like they have a stake in this, because there were so many people at the crime scene, you know, when she was found. So many people having their little Facebook lives and telling stories online and spreading rumors, and there's so many online detectives that so many people in the community feel like they have a stake in this story, and they knew her because so much information is being released. And honestly, sometimes we don't see family members that have been this open as Dorothy and Tiara, and you know, the father at some point even talked to the media. So yeah, you add all of this together, and it was Keimani's birthday on the Friday after she was found. I think she was found on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and her 14th birthday.
It was a Tuesday,
was that
dude.
Friday. So this really, I mean, we just saw this.
What's that wrong with this
memorial
reporter?
just swell with so many balloons and happy birthday.
I just, when I look at those pictures too, I think of her classmates and her teachers. And when I think of being a teacher, and we do have a report from Lucas County Children's Services saying that a teacher reported to them, you know, there has to be a feeling. There's her desk at her school. That's so heartbreaking. There has to be a feeling as a teacher, you know, almost like a guilt. You know, I think in a lot of these cases, you go home to your family at the end of the day.
Who should have guilt is not the teacher, yo. It should be the social workers that sat here and ignored the fact that they neglected to investigate this case. Because that's what they did. They broke protocols, right? They broke the policies. And what's crazy is the supervisors and the people in charge did not enforce none of these policies. That's why I've asked the questions that I've asked earlier. And like I told y'all, right, I do these lives for us to bring solutions to the table. What do y'all think are the How can we ensure that we're keeping the focus on solutions and not just the tragedy? Right? Let's bring the solutions. Let's prevent future tragedies. What can we do? And that's why I've asked my provoking questions, not just, you know, on the Department of Human Services, but us as a community, right? Like I asked, what can we do to, you know, have a better dialogue, open conversations here on social media? And that's what a lot of us do. We bring these topics up here to bring awareness, to bring, you know, to talk about this, to converse about this so that we can get better understanding and see how we could change these policies. Do some policies need to be changed, right? Do some of them need to stay the same? What can we do? How can we enforce them? How can we come together as communities, right? Where is it? Right, to push for stronger legal protections for children and ensure that they are implemented on the ground. What innovative ideas could be introduced to ensure that neglected children receive immediate and effective support? What changes could be done? Let me ask y'all a question. Do y'all think there are specific legislative changes that y'all believe would empower the Department of Human Services to act more effectively in cases of neglect, like in Keimani, Latigue's case, Janiyah Russell, and many more?
Certainly bound by kind of staying in the classroom. You can make a report, but really what more can you do?
Yeah,
and now they've lost this little girl.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the whole thing why
Facts, Ms.
people
V.
care so much is that so many people feel like we failed her.
Yeah.
Whether it's county officials, whether it's children's services, whether it's teachers, whether it's community members that said, hey, I knew that family.
Yep.
We should have done something.
Okay, so we've got the arraignment.
Well, a lot of us don't think that the teachers failed her. A lot of us don't think that the friends failed her. We do think that the family failed her. We do think that the Department of Human Services failed her. And we think that the judicial system failed her. Why do I say that? We have a judge that gave custody to a woman that has a history of children being taken away from her, of, her being neglectful to children, abusive to children, right? We have a grandmother that, according to the teachers, right, Keimani didn't want to come back to the house because the grandmother was being abusive. She made reports that Keimani had bruises all over her, right? The grandmother admitted that the teachers called the Department of Human Services on Keimani's behalf, which means that Keimani stepped out and asked for help, regardless of the consequences. Now, my question is, right, with the grandmother admitting, and if y'all go back, right, she says it. And I played it a couple times. Let me see if we could find the little timeline on where, let me see, is this where she says it? She admits it. And I want y'all to listen carefully to the words.
Of her talking about this fake arrest.
Well, I was called and told that there was a mob of people in front of my house. They were angry. It was more or less the people that were here earlier waiting to see if it was Keimani that was in the home. And basically some people from the neighborhood had contacted me and said that there was a mob in front of my house and they were talking about what they were going to do to me once I came home. So the police, the detective, said that she would have a unit come out and help me get my things and more or less escort me off the property. I asked to be handcuffed just so they can get the fuck away from my property.
Yeah, and Silver, this is really interesting.
I'm sorry.
CSB on her behalf.
And people mentioning things.
Here we go, I found it.
Reported, and that's when we
was not abused. Yes, she was chastised whenever she was wrong. Or
I want y'all to listen to this.
Other than that, she was not abused. She was not just whooped for no reason or just because I felt like it. I've went through this twice because the school system had contacted CSP or CSB on her behalf. I've went through this twice because the school system had contacted CSP or CSB on her behalf. I've went through this twice because the school system had contacted CSP or CSB on her behalf when she went to Bennett Academy, and they came.
So y'all not telling me, y'all not gonna sit here and tell me that there's not inconsistency in this grandmom story. With her saying this shows us that the teacher was not lying when the teacher sat here and said that, Keimani was asking for help. And I'm not sure if it's here. Let me see. Does the teacher come out speak? Do they got the video of the teacher speaking? Oh, no, she doesn't have it. But you know what? Let's go here while I go look for that video real quick. Let's go back. All right, we want to let them finish talking.
Horrific crime. Her hands were cut off. Her head was nearly cut off. She'd been raped. And, I mean, this was beyond anything that we were even speculating.
Yeah.
And it was very surprising that somebody in a different city was the one to reveal this information.
Right, it sure was. The memorial is probably bigger than any I've ever seen here. And I was talking to Megan Hartnett. We've had her on the show before. She went out and covered the memorial at one point, and there were elderly people coming by. There were all kinds of people. This is in its infancy stages, to be honest with you. This This is some early video of it, but, you know, what do you think it is, Brian, about this case that has brought so many people out there? I mean, certainly you can speculate that it's the thought of kind of this little girl who, by all accounts, was a wonderful person. And was she just caught up in a circle of people who could have and should have done more for her? Was it that her father is accused of doing this to her? What is it, do you think, about Keimani in this story that has touched so many people?
Yeah, and I've asked myself that question a lot. I think the big thing is that this was a 13-year-old girl. She's very sweet looking. She's very beautiful, and her body is found in an abandoned, burned out house, and her father is charged with killing her. I mean, it really doesn't get any more horrific than that. And I think it's also that the whole community feels like they have a stake in this, because there were so many people at the crime scene, you know, when she was found. So many people having their little Facebook lives and telling stories online and spreading rumors, and there's so many online detectives that so many people in the community feel like they have a stake in this story, and they knew her because so much information is being released. And honestly, sometimes we don't see family members that have been this open as Dorothy and Tiara, and you know, the father at some point even talked to the media. So yeah, you add all of this together, and it was Keimani's birthday on the Friday after she was found. I think she was found on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and her 14th birthday was that Friday. So this really, I mean, we just saw this memorial just swell with so many balloons and happy birthday things.
I just, when I look at those pictures too, I think of her classmates and her teachers.
All right, so we're gonna stop the video right there, right? And I'm gonna show y'all this guy, right? His name is The Pascal Show, right? And I just want to show y'all this little clip from his video, right? And it shows the best friend and the teacher. So I want y'all to listen to this real clip for you, to what they gotta say.
She came to school with bruises on her arms.
That's the best friend.
7th grader Imani Fisher, a classmate of Keimani's
I
from
mean,
her most recent school, Spring
right.
Elementary.
Sorry.
Fisher says she would often see Keimani come into class with visible markings, so she and other students decided to say something to a teacher.
And she said she would deal with it, but I don't think nothing happened.
TPS representatives say they have no records of abuse against Keimani to either CSB or TPD. But it's also not the first time someone has raised concerns about what was going on inside Latigue's home. Kayleen Harabedian was her 6th grade English teacher at Bennett Venture Academy, the last school she attended before spring. Harabedian says she also spotted visible markings.
No offense, but if you spend more than $30 a month on car insurance, you're getting ripped off. Everybody knows you can buy
and bruises on Keimani.
It's hard because, especially in a role like education, your day doesn't end at 3:30. You take these things home with you. They weigh on you. I'm a parent myself, and I tried my best to make sure that she was removed from that environment.
Harabedian claims she put in multiple calls to CSB. Keimani's grandmother and legal guardian Dorothy Latigue says they did come knocking on her door, but she denies there was any abuse in the home.
I've went through this twice because the school system had contacted CSB on her behalf when she went to Bennett Academy. And they came in, they did a case study and closed it. They've stated there's a way to chastise children without physically harming them, and you need to whoop them on their behind, nowhere else. So, okay, with that in mind, I knew that.
What's interesting about this is, again, we hear teachers say out loud they saw markings on her body. And then, of course, that sparked some concerns and everything. And I'm wondering how far back that was. Was it within this year, the last few weeks, whatever it may be? That's one thing I'm still trying to understand fully, okay? But now we're starting to get more information from the teachers the teachers are now speaking out, and they've been posting things on Facebook. And I wanted to get out here and talk to you guys about these things, because again, for me, it's aggravating me a little bit, because it shows that there is a history. There was a history. Apparently, she was crying out. They say that she was literally crying out. Okay, that she was speaking out, saying that she was in a very bad environment. And I keep wondering, I know there's only so much teachers can do, but I keep wondering, what about CPS? What about the social worker that was moving this child from one guardian to the next? What is actually going on here, and why didn't the system protect this little girl? So let's take a look at this, because again, there's something about this that just seems a little bit odd. Of course, now we're hearing things from posts from teachers, etc. Now, of course, we got to take this with a grain of salt, because anybody can act like their teacher and just write something, just to stir the pot. But at the same time, it is something that's very interesting nonetheless, and I feel like these should be investigated for sure. Because then at the same time, before we go into these, at the same time, you got to remember, this could also be a foreshadowing or a heads up or a red flag about the grandma too. Think about that too, because it makes you wonder, who are the bad people? Clearly, Darnell Jones, who is the biological father of Keimani, is the one who is now in the hospital. Of course, he's obviously detained. He is the suspect. He apparently admitted to viciously SAing her and unaliving her as well. We know about him now, but I'm wondering if she was just in a pool full and surrounded by nothing but sharks.
Real shit. Listen, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm not the only one that's thinking like this, man. Ms. V, I'm not sure Ms. V's still down there, man. How do you feel about this? Amanda. What you think, Amanda? Chat. Where y'all at?
Is that possible? Again, like I said, I'm still trying to understand this case just like anybody else. And
I'm just glad I know that I'm not crazy. There's more people out there that think the same way that I am thinking. Why is this grandma walking free? Why ain't the cuffs on her? Why aren't we building caskets for these mofos?
We get more information, it starts to make you wonder what actually the radar for this whole sole guardian, so having full custody over her. Should she be looked at right now? Those are the questions that should be answered as well, right? But let's take a look at these. Like I said, we got to take a look at this. I
was trying to fast forward.
This is just eating away at me. I was thinking about this, and I just feel like we need to take a look at some of these posts. So here's one that says here, apparently this is somebody that was there, saying, I'm not okay. I tried so hard to get her removed from this environment. Sweet baby, my heart is broken. The system is broken. I am sick, but mostly just sad. I enjoyed being able to teach her, give her a hug or give her a hug every single morning she came into the school, because that was all she ever wanted. Her friends tried. I tried. The school staff tried. No one listened. They wouldn't allow her to have a voice, and now she's gone. Thank you to Toledo's Children's Services for your lack of effing care for these children. Now, from my understanding, that must be one of the teachers, okay, or one of the school staff that was involved in all of this situation. Again, I hate to ask a million times over, but hey, is this a situation where it was just completely, this was completely ignored? Again, what's up?
Hey, oh, I forgot I'm not on the premium channel.
Yeah, let me show you. Most people don't know this.
This was completely ignored. Again, what's up with the system? What's up with what's up with this? It just doesn't make any sense.
So that'll lead me back to the question, right? Because we're about to, end this, on this topic right here, and we're gonna go diving down the rabbit hole in a minute. But we're gonna finish up with Keimani first, right? And then, when we get more updates, we'll do a whole live on the Keimani Latigue, and I'll do, the open panel for people to come on panel and speak, right? But right now, right, let me ask y'all this question. What gaps in the current policies or practices do y'all think are leaving children vulnerable in society nowadays?
Again, I was her teacher. This is the same post from the same person saying she is her teacher. She told us she didn't feel safe. She told us she was terrified to go home. We all saw the marks, etc., on her body. I made multiple reports to CPS trying to get her the help she desperately needed to keep her safe. All of our voices were left unheard. CPS should be held accountable. We told them over and over again. I mean, like I said, you see stuff like this, it just makes you wonder what the hell is really going on here and why it's going down the way it went down. Okay, again, why? Like, I can't help.
I'm gonna leave that right there, right? If y'all want to check him out, I'm gonna leave his link down below for those of y'all that want to go check him out. Hey, what is all this? Oh, there we go. There we go. So that y'all can watch the full video. All right, guys. So that's all that I got right now on the Keimani Latigue case. All right, we're going to take a quick little break, and then we're going to get back to this. We're going to dive down the rabbit hole. All right, I'm not sure if Word is live, but y'all can also check out Word, right? Make sure y'all know, y'all check, share his videos, right? Show our big brother some support, man. The 9%ers in the building, yo. But, Word got some great conversations, some great topics. And if he's still alive, man, make sure y'all go check him out. But give me a minute, right, and we're going to hop right into the next topic. This is crazy, right? I've asked mind-provoking questions throughout this whole live, right, in the search of us trying to bring solutions to the table. What can we do, right, as communities to help our youth? How can we enforce these policies and much more? Facts, Commander. CPS says no reports that that's what's crazy. That's the whole purpose of, doing these panels, doing these lives, right? For us to bring awareness. And that's why I say, make sure, even if you don't smash that like button for a shorty is not that pressed about the like button. That's why y'all don't hear me mention it a lot, right? Make sure y'all share the videos, man. Do shorty that favor. Share her videos and help us bring awareness, right, to the different topics that we bring to these lives. All right. We bring them so that we can bring solutions to the table once again. I don't want to hear excuses. I want to hear solutions. I ain't debating and I ain't arguing nobody. Because when it comes to the children, we ain't got time to debate. We are the voice for our kids. So just give me 1 second and we're going to dive down the rabbit hole and explore the Bible a little bit before we go down, right, and, go down the rabbit hole exploring our past. And I think when we explore our past, we're going to be doing what? Let me see. We're going to be doing the inspirational life of Sojourner Truth, the American civil rights activist. And don't judge a shorty on how she said her name, all right? And then we got the shocking truth about Shirley Shislam exposed. Listen, I can't say her name right, all right? The first Black Congresswoman. So we're going to learn about the first Black Congresswoman, right? And the American civil rights activist. So give me 1 second while I get this stuff together. Hey. So we're diving down the rabbit hole real quick, and we're going to explore the Bible in the past, right? Then we're going to be reviewing and reacting to the new research proves that the Hindu texts are correct about these creatures. It's scary. Now we're gonna try to figure out what creatures, they're talking about and what, the Hindu texts talk about. All right. So give me a minute once again. All right, and we'll get started on that, right? And if y'all want to know what Hindu is, right, the Hindu texts are, make sure y'all check out Word, because he does talk about these topics and he will break it down for y'all like if y'all in kindergarten. I'll be right back. Just give me a second, all right?
In my heart, I will continue to strive. You may throw obstacles in my way. In the face of darkness, I stand tall and strong. With faith as my shield, I'll keep marching on. You may try to bring me down. You may try to silence me. But the warrior in me will never give up. You'll see, through trials and tribulations, I'll keep the fight alive. With courage in my heart, I will continue. In the face of darkness, I stand tall and strong.
Damn, I hate when it does that. The John's stuck right there. All right, John, we're going to dive down the rabbit hole, all right? And we have a video right here. Like I was telling y'all, we're going to be learning about the Hindu text, right? I haven't seen these videos yet. I was going to play a couple, but we're going to just play one. We're going to dive down one video. We're going to dive down one rabbit hole, right? One, the Bible. One, our history in the past, all right? Damn, I didn't even realize it was already 4:36 in the morning. I should have started this a little earlier. But I was caught up. I was, Word drew my attention earlier. So I was stuck on his live with Gary first, then a little bit of his live. And I was like, fuck my life on some real shit. But let's get this John started, all right? It says, Nagas are the great serpents, powerful and wise, born of Kadru, the daughter of Dagasha. They are the protectors of treasures, their coils shining like molten gold. Mahabharata, Adi Palva. What? I feel like I just read a spell.
For centuries, human civilizations have been haunted by tales of reptilian beings known as the Nagas, enigmatic creatures that bridge the realms of humanity and serpentine mystery. These beings are not mere figments.
Oh, we didn't dive down the Bible first. We went down the history. Okay, so no, this is the Bible. All right, so I'm tripping. All right, so we going down the Hindu texts. All right. I'm on the right path. I'm tripping over here. What the hell's going on, Ray? Get it together.
Realms of humanity and serpentine mystery. These beings are not mere figments of imagination. Their presence is deeply entrenched in cultural lore, historical accounts, and even archaeological evidence. The concept of the Nagas challenges our understanding of the ancient world, suggesting that the Earth was once inhabited by entities whose existence defies modern comprehension. The Nagas are described as semi-divine beings, part human and part serpent, capable of assuming either form at will. They are said to dwell in subterranean worlds, often referred to as Patala or Nagaloka, realms teeming with
Nagaloka. Yo, I swear to God that if I wouldn't read the words the way it's spelled out, I swear that if I wouldn't listen carefully, it sounds like I'm saying nalgas, but it's nagas. I gotta make sure y'all hear this, John, right? I'm hoping y'all hear it right. But let me ask y'all a question before we continue. How do y'all think ancient Hindu texts have shaped our understanding of mythical creatures like nagas, right? And for those of y'all that do know about Hindu texts, right, and know about the mythical creatures, Nagas, which is something that I'm learning. I'm also going down the rabbit hole, right, learning about these creatures. It's not just the Nagas, there's plenty more, right? What role do y'all believe mythology plays in bridging the gap between cultural lore and scientific discovery, my bad.
treasures and hidden knowledge.
Oh, no.
I got a Mazzato knife, and what followed was an absolute fiasco. So I almost made...
There you go. Now we got premium. Say something.
For centuries, human civilizations have been haunted by tales of reptilian beings known as the Nagas, enigmatic creatures that bridge the realms of humanity and serpentine mystery. These beings are not mere figments of imagination. Their presence is deeply entrenched in cultural lore, historical accounts, and even archaeological evidence. The concept of the Nagas challenges our understanding of the ancient world, suggesting that the Earth was once inhabited by entities whose existence defies modern comprehension. The Nagas are described as semi-divine beings, part human and part serpent, capable of assuming either form at will. They are...
Hey, he said semi-divine beings. Right? What makes a semi-divine being?
modern comprehension. The Nagas are described as semi-divine beings, part human and part serpent.
So is a serpent divine? Oh, the serpent is divine because in the Bible, the serpent is the devil.
Capable of assuming either form at will. They are said to dwell in subterranean worlds, often referred to as Patala or Nagaloka, realms teeming with treasures and hidden knowledge. Their association with water bodies such as rivers, lakes, and seas hints at a profound connection with life's primordial origins. Could these descriptions be rooted in encounters with actual beings that thrived in harmony with the Earth's natural elements?
I don't know.
Archaeological evidence provides tantalizing clues. Excavations at ancient sites such as Chirand in Bihar, India, have unearthed terracotta figurines and artifacts that point to serpent worship dating back to the Neolithic period. The reverence for these beings, seen as protectors of fertility and guardians of water, suggests they were perceived as more than symbolic figures. Their significance transcends mere religious practice, pointing to an era when humans coexisted with beings that inspired both awe and fear.
I gotta go poke at the word's brain a little bit and see what he knows about Nagas.
The legends of Nagas are not confined to India. Across Southeast Asia, the narratives are strikingly similar, weaving a tapestry of shared beliefs and ancestral memory. In Cambodia, one of the most intriguing accounts tells of the union between an Indian Brahmin named Kaundinya and a serpent princess named Soma. This tale, regarded as the origin of the Khmer people, symbolizes a merging of human and reptilian lineages. Was this story an allegory, or does it conceal a fragment of forgotten history, a record of an epoch when interspecies interaction was possible? Southeast Asia is replete with architectural testaments to the Naga.
I mean, I don't know. Science has proven that a human and an animal cannot, have sex and have babies. But I know that they could do hybrids in the lab. So y'all not going to sit here and tell me that an animal and a human has sex. I mean, you could sit here and tell me that they was created in a lab. Y'all made a hybrid by mixing human DNA and animal DNA somehow. Now we have a half human, half goat. Listen, but don't tell me that a human and an animal has... How does a snake and a damn human have sex? I'm done.
Naga's influence. In Thailand, serpentine sculptures grace the stairways of ancient temples, their sinuous forms guarding sacred spaces from malevolent forces.
Look at the
These carvings are not mere decorations. They serve as reminders of an enigmatic past when these beings were considered integral to human existence. The consistent portrayal of Nagas as protectors and guides suggests that they were once deemed custodians of wisdom, guardians of secrets hidden beneath the earth and waters. The connection between Nagas and water is particularly compelling. Snakes' affinity for damp, concealed spaces may have inspired their association with rivers and lakes. However, the narratives go beyond natural observation. The account...
I'm glad I'm human. I do not want to look like that. Commander, you still in the chat? Yo, wait a minute. If you look like this, how would you feel? I wouldn't like the person looking at me in the mirror.
Accounts speak of immense serpentine beings with powers to control the elements, entities whose presence shaped the environment.
I mean, you can give me the powers, but keep the way. Oof, I don't want to look like this. It looks a little demonic on some real shit.
These stories raise a haunting question. Were the Nagas symbolic representations of natural forces, or did they reflect encounters with a species that wielded abilities beyond human understanding? India's cultural landscape is dotted with festivals and rituals dedicated to serpent deities. In Odisha, for example, these celebrations honor the Nagas as protectors and benefactors. The offerings, chants, and elaborate ceremonies hint at an ancient pact, a mutual respect between humans and these beings. Could these practices be echoes of an agreement forged in a distant past, a testament to a coexistence that modern science has yet to comprehend? The global resonance of serpent beings adds another layer of intrigue. In the Philippines, the Bakunawa, a serpent-like dragon, is believed to cause eclipses by attempting to devour the moon. This tale mirrors similar accounts of celestial serpents in other cultures, pointing to a shared narrative that transcends geographical boundaries. The universality of these stories hints at a common origin, a time when humanity's ancestors might have witnessed phenomena that inspired these enduring legends.
Is he trying to say that snakes are celestial? They're divine?
The possibility that Nagas and similar beings were inspired by real encounters gains further credence when considering fossil evidence. Remains of large prehistoric reptiles, some measuring extraordinary lengths, have been discovered in various parts of the world. These findings suggest that early humans lived alongside massive, serpentine creatures, their interactions giving rise to tales of beings with supernatural attributes. The fear and reverence elicited by such encounters could have led to the deification of these creatures, embedding their legacy into human consciousness.
Yo, I think that, we do our research, right? We will see that throughout time. History hasn't changed. I think our perspective of history has changed because of, the way we've learned it, right? So how does new research validating aspects of Hindu text challenge or expand our perception of ancient knowledge? Do you think scientific discoveries can coexist with spiritual or mythological beliefs, or do they often conflict? I feel as though that science and history, science, how can I say, in the spiritual realm, often have conflicts of, they do conflict each other, right? It's kind of like they headbutt each other. Like, when it comes to science, right, it's more of the Big Bang Theory type shit, right? The spiritual or mythological is more, gods, goddesses, right? Magic and stuff like that. So, when it comes to science, they say that don't exist, right? When you want to go to spiritual, the people that believe spiritual or mythological, right, they say science isn't real. It's like a war. They do conflict each other. Man, I don't know. What do y'all think, right? How do y'all think, right? How does new research validating aspects of Hindu text challenge or expand our perception of ancient knowledge? To me, it doesn't change because I don't know. I've been reading history books for the longest, and I feel as though that certain stories, the plot changes, characters change, right? But they teach you something. You learn something from each one, right? You learn a new lesson from each one. But it's kind of like, when I read them, it's like, for me, it's kind of like connecting the dots, putting, a puzzle together, trying to see which piece fits where. And certain stories fill in the gaps for other stories. And it's crazy. I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping, but that's me. That's how I see it. So to me, it doesn't change my perception of ancient knowledge. It just tells me what's bullshit and what's not from, nowadays. And do y'all think that scientific discoveries can coexist with spiritual or mythological beliefs, or do they often conflict? And I feel as though, to me, right, in my opinion, they often conflict with each other.
Artistic depictions across ancient with supernatural attributes. The fear and reverence elicited by such encounters could have led to the deification of these creatures, embedding their legacy into human consciousness. Artistic depictions across ancient civilizations provide another thread of evidence. Sculptures and carvings of serpent beings are not confined to Asia. They appear in the art of ancient Mesopotamia, Mesoamerica, and Africa, each culture attributing unique characteristics to these creatures. In Mesoamerica, the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl was revered as a deity of wisdom and creation. In Africa, the Dahomey tradition speaks of Aido Huedo, a serpent that supported the world. These widespread motifs suggest a shared memory, a universal recognition of serpentine beings as powerful, otherworldly entities. Could the Nagas have been remnants of an advanced reptilian species that once inhabited the Earth? The notion is not as far-fetched as it might seem. Fossil records indicate that reptiles were among the dominant life forms during the Mesozoic era. As the Earth's climate and ecosystems evolved, could a subset of these creatures have developed intelligence, surviving in hidden sanctuaries while their less adaptable kin perished? Such a hypothesis challenges conventional science, but aligns with the recurring descriptions of intelligent humanoid reptiles in human history. The subterranean realms often associated with Nagas add another dimension to their mystery. Legends describe vast underground cities filled with treasures and advanced knowledge, guarded fiercely by these beings. While modern explorations of the Earth's crust have yet to uncover such realms, the persistence of these accounts across cultures raises questions about what might lie beneath our feet. Did the ancients have access to subterranean worlds that modern humanity has forgotten? Were these realms the last refuge of an ancient reptilian race? Modern interpretations of Nagas often dismiss them as symbolic or allegorical, reducing their significance to mere storytelling. Yet the consistency of their portrayal, the detailed descriptions of their abilities, and their enduring presence in cultural rituals suggest a deeper truth. These beings occupied a central role in the worldview of ancient civilizations.
Do y'all really believe that reptile, how can I say it? Hybrid reptiles exist. I mean, hybrid humans, how can I say it? Half man, half reptile existed in ancient Egyptian time at one point in time. I don't listen. I feel as though that, they can make a hybrid in the lab, right? They can make, mix a DNA of a human and animal, somehow come up, with a little human piglet, right? Or, how can I say, a half man, half goat, a half man, half horse. I mean, listen. I mean, look deep down into the Winnie the Pooh story. What y'all think they was? But anyways, I don't think that a human and an animal could sit here and have sex and procreate, a hybrid child. Nah. I think if this existed at one point in time, somehow, they was made in a lab. There's no other way, if this was true.
Shaping their understanding of life, death, and the cosmos. The reverence for serpentine beings continues to resonate in contemporary practices. In parts of India, snake temples still attract devotees who seek protection, fertility, and wisdom. The offerings and prayers directed at these deities reflect a lingering belief in their power. This unbroken chain of reverence spanning millennia.
Blessings, young Rios. Blessings. Welcome.
Suggests that the legacy of the Nagas is far from extinguished. In exploring the accounts of the Nagas, one cannot ignore the possibility of their connection to humanity's ancestral memory. Were these beings visitors from another realm, as some ancient astronaut theorists propose? Or were they an advanced species native to Earth, whose interactions with humans left an indelible mark on our collective consciousness?
I can't. You know, it's crazy because growing up and for a while, I've heard about people talking about reptile people. I mean, I don't know. Do the lizard people exist? Listen, if they do exist, they was created in a lab too. I'm sorry, on some, listen, Alien versus Predator type shit. But I know that, you know, the little green aliens don't exist. Is there something more out there, you know, another type of being that is not human? Probably. I mean, there was something else out here before us. You see where I'm coming from? Like, but I don't know. He's telling me that a lizard person exists. I'm gonna have to see that. It could be a possibility. I wouldn't put it past it though. I'm not gonna sit here. I might be open-minded. Shit, but you gotta show me some proof. Like, have they done it? Like, I need to see, you know, a half human, half animal to believe it. Could the possibility be real? I mean, and throughout history, it's been shown allegedly, right? At one point in time in ancient history, right? Ancient Egyptian time, right? They had half human, half animals. So I don't know.
The answers remain elusive, shrouded in the mists of time. What is undeniable is the enduring fascination with these enigmatic beings. From the intricate carvings of Angkor Wat to the folk tales of remote villages, the presence of Nagas continues to inspire curiosity and wonder. They remind us of a time when the line between the natural and the supernatural was blurred, when humanity's understanding of the world was shaped by forces that defied explanation. The Naga's legacy challenges us to question our assumptions about the past. Were they mere symbols of nature's power, or did they represent a reality that modern science has yet to uncover? As archaeological discoveries and scientific advancements continue to expand our knowledge, the mystery of the Nagas beckons us to look beyond the surface, to seek the truths hidden in the depths of history and the earth itself. The story of the Nagas is far from over. It is a puzzle waiting to be solved, a key to understanding a forgotten chapter of humanity's journey.
That's crazy. Hey, why do I gotta go back? That sucks.
What if I
Don't tell me nothing.
told you that the harder you push, the
Didn't I tell
fewer
you
listings you get?
This is the new hot flash. These are night sweats. And this is...
Alright, we're gonna play this last video, right? Because I got something to do real quick. And then tonight we're gonna go down the rabbit hole again. Alright? So we're gonna pick up where we left off. How is that? Somebody actually asked one of the questions. I asked if you could ask the researchers one question about their findings, what would it be? Commander said, what finding has made the most impact? That's a good ass question though, for real. But we're gonna move on to the next video.
Did you know there's a hidden...
Right, and this one's called The Real Reason the Book of Jubilee was banned. So we're going to see what was the real reason according to them.
book that some say reveals secrets too powerful for the Bible? One of these hidden books is known as the Book of Jubilees, and it was banned from most versions of the Bible for a reason. But what does this ancient text really say, and why would anyone want to keep it from us? Stick around, because what you're about to hear may change the way you see biblical history forever. Now, before we dive into this video, you might be wondering, what exactly does Jubilee mean? And who wrote the Book of Jubilees? Let's break it down. The word Jubilee comes from the Hebrew term yobel, evobo, which means ram's horn or trumpet, In ancient Israel, the original Israelites would use the sound of the ram's horn to announce the start of the Jubilee year. This wasn't just any year. It was a monumental event. According to Leviticus chapter 25, the Jubilee year happened every 50th year, and it was all about freedom and restoration. Slaves were set free, debts were forgiven, and land that was lost or sold was returned to its original owners. This wasn't just about land. It was about social justice, economic balance, and a fresh start for everyone. Imagine the celebration and relief that came with such a year. Leviticus chapter 25 states,
You shall count 7 Sabbaths of years for yourself, 7 times 7 years. And the time of the 7 Sabbaths of years shall be to you 49 years. Then you shall cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. On the day of atonement you shall make the trumpet to sound throughout all your land. And you shall consecrate the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, and each of you shall return to his possession, and each of you shall return to his family.
Now, who wrote the Book of Jubilees, and when did it come about? The Book of Jubilees, sometimes called the Little Genesis, was likely written during the 2nd century BCE. While the exact author remains unknown, scholars believe it was penned by a Jewish priest or scribe.
How they don't know who wrote the Book of Jubilee? I gotta go back and see, when was it?
Family.
Now, who wrote the Book of Jubilees, and when did it come about? The Book of Jubilees, sometimes called the Little Genesis, was likely written during the 2nd century BCE.
2nd century.
While the exact author remains unknown, scholars believe it was penned by a Jewish priest or...
How do they know if this was true or not? Like, they don't even know who wrote the book. That's crazy. So they don't even know who really wrote Genesis? But Genesis is in the Bible still. Wait, I'm confused. But where it talks about this, I'm going to have to go back to his live show, because, I just lost myself somehow, somewhere.
Scribe, possibly from the Essenes, a group known for preserving religious texts and living in isolation. It's important to note that the Book of Jubilees wasn't included in the traditional Bible, but it holds significant weight in Ethiopian Christianity and some Jewish traditions. The text was rediscovered in its entirety in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, but fragments of it have also been found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, dating as far back as 150 BCE. Pause. Do you want to read the Book of Giants? Or the Book of Adam and Eve? Maybe even the early life of Jesus? Lucky for you, we are launching a weekly newsletter packed with powerful stories from apocryphal texts. Plus, you'll get a Bible verse to pray over each week. Don't miss out on these hidden treasures of faith. Check the link in the description box to join. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Let's return to the video. This tells us that the book was widely known and respected in certain ancient communities. If you've ever read Genesis in the Bible, and I'm not talking about just hearing a chapter your pastor read during a sermon. I mean, sitting down, opening your Bible, and doing your own deep study, you'll find it answers many questions, but it also leaves a lot unanswered. That's where the Book of Jubilees comes in. This book fills in some of those gaps, giving us deeper insights into God's relationship with his people and shedding light on aspects of the beginning of time that Genesis doesn't fully explain. But here's the thing. The Book of Jubilees is often labeled as banned or apocryphal, which leads many people to dismiss it outright.
Oh yeah, because it tells us that God has an anger, right? He has a little temper. That's crazy. How does wait, my bad. All right, what steps can we take to ensure we are understanding and following God's truth rather than being swayed by the opinions of men? How can uncovering hidden truths in the Bible Hidden truths in the Bible deepen our relationship with God and transform our daily lives. Me personally, I feel as though that the Bible is full of, contradictions and hypocrisy. But, people get mad when I say that. But that's my own opinion.
Without even giving it a chance. Why? Simply because it's not in the version of the Bible they're familiar with today. Yet, the truth is, Jubilees is incredibly educational, and it has helped many people answer questions they've wrestled with after reading Genesis. Today, I want to be completely honest with you and reveal the real reason why the Book of Jubilees was excluded from the traditional Bible. But before we dive into that, here's something important to keep in mind. Many of the books that were excluded or labeled banned have since been rediscovered, studied, and made available to society. And while the Book of Jubilees might not appear in the Bible, it's a highly respected text in Ethiopia. In fact, it has never been considered banned in Ethiopian Christianity, where it's part of their canon and widely studied even today. The Little Genesis provides unique details about biblical stories, especially the early history of humanity. It's packed with information on the creation of the world, the lives of the patriarchs, and even details of angelic activities that aren't found anywhere else in the canonical Bible. But what makes it so controversial? First off, the Book of Jubilees claims to be based on the instructions given by an angel to Moses on Mount Sinai. Imagine that. This book is essentially a retelling of Genesis and parts of Exodus, but with a...
Hold up, did she say imagine that like in a sarcastic way, or like imagine that in a way that me and you would say like, man, imagine that? Or like, bitch, please.
This book is essentially a retelling of Genesis and parts of Exodus, but with additional hidden layers, like the precise timelines of events, moral laws, and explanations that go beyond what we see in the Bible. It covers everything in structured cycles of 49 years, or jubilees, adding a sense of divine rhythm to history itself. So why was it left out? Well, that's where things get interesting.
I'm waiting.
The Book of Jubilees wasn't just excluded. It was deliberately kept out by early religious leaders who felt it was, well, let's just say, a bit too much. Some felt that its detailed accounts of angelic influence, curses, and divine laws gave too much knowledge, even suggesting that it might lead believers astray or overshadow other teachings in the Bible. It posed a challenge to religious authority.
Announcement. Shenyun, the world-class performance, has been targeted by...
And its very content stirred theological debates. This is what we're going to dive into today. What the Book of Jubilees really says, why it was kept out of mainstream religious texts, and how it differs from the Genesis we all know. So get ready, because you're about to hear details that might just reshape your view on the Bible's history.
I've been ready, and you keep stalling like, damn, what's taking you so long? You keep repeating this shit.
Today, most people have never heard of the Book of Jubilees, or if they have, it's often shrouded in mystery and misunderstandings. There's this common assumption that every book of real importance was included in the Bible, and anything left out just wasn't valuable enough. But that's actually far from the truth. Books like Jubilees weren't excluded because they lacked substance. In fact, some early Christians and Jews regarded Jubilees as a crucial part of their religious understanding. One major misconception is that the Book of Jubilees is just a repetitive rehash of Genesis. Sure, it covers some of the same events, but it also adds a ton of detail that some early religious authorities thought might even be too revealing. For example, Jubilees goes in depth on the origins of humanity, the angels, and even specific moral laws. It introduces concepts of cosmic order and cycles of time that are nowhere else in Scripture, portraying a precise structure to history that makes each event feel like it's part of a divine timetable. Now, here's a fascinating detail you probably didn't catch in Genesis, because it's not there. According to the Book of Jubilees, Adam and Eve didn't just have a brief stay in the Garden of Eden before the infamous fall. In fact, they lived there for 7 years before they were expelled. 7 whole years. Think about it. 7 years of paradise, living in harmony with God, surrounded by beauty, and free from the burdens of sin. It wasn't just a fleeting moment. This little-known fact gives us a completely different perspective on their time in Eden. If you've ever wondered what life might have been like for them before eating from the tree of knowledge, this timeline helps paint a fuller picture.
Damn, they was only there for a week before they got banned? That was fast, but if you read Genesis and all that, right, don't they make it seem like they was there for thousands and thousands of years before they got banned?
Imagine Adam and Eve tending to the garden, enjoying its fruits, and walking side by side with God daily for 7 years. This detail emphasizes just how much they lost after their disobedience. Not just a perfect place to live, but an entire lifestyle of peace, innocence, and divine connection. This revelation makes the story of the fall even more heartbreaking, doesn't it? They weren't new to the garden. They had time to experience its perfection fully before it was all taken away. It also makes us wonder why Genesis doesn't include this timeline. Could it be that the Book of Jubilees adds these details to help us understand the depth of what was lost and the weight of that original sin? Here's something that might surprise you. According to the Book of Jubilees, Adam and Eve didn't just have sons like Cain, Abel, and Seth. The text actually names their daughters too.
Daughters?
That's right. 2 of their daughters were named Awan and Azurah. And get this, Awan married her brother Cain, and Azurah married her brother Seth. Now, before anyone starts squirming in their seats, let's remember this was a very different time in history. The world was just getting started, and the human race was literally beginning with one family. So yes, siblings marrying each other was a necessity for population growth. While it might sound strange or even taboo to us today, this was how God designed things to work in the earliest days of humanity. Let's talk about their roles. Awan, who married Cain, becomes part of a storyline that includes one of...
There was incest with the kiss of the first man and woman on earth. Ooh. But which Adam and Eve was this?
The Bible's most infamous events. Cain killing his brother Abel. Imagine the tension in her life. Married to the man marked by God for that terrible crime. Azurah, on the other hand, married Seth, who is seen as the one through whom the righteous lineage continued. Through Seth, humanity got a second chance to follow God's ways after Cain's rebellious actions. By giving names to Adam and Eve's daughters, Jubilees adds depth and humanity to a story we often oversimplify. These women weren't just nameless figures. They were real people who played pivotal roles in the world's first family. Awan and Azurah's lives show how even in the earliest days, family dynamics were complex, filled with both hope and hardship. So why doesn't Genesis name them?
Right.
It's unclear, but the Book of Jubilees offers these details, giving us a richer understanding of the origins of humanity. It also raises some interesting questions. What were their lives like? How did they navigate the challenges of being part of such a small and yet vital family? Another misconception is that Jubilees was universally rejected by early religious leaders. The truth? It actually had a dedicated following, especially in certain Jewish and early Christian communities. In Ethiopia, the Orthodox Tewahedo Church even considers it canon to this day. So while the mainstream Bible doesn't include it, Jubilees hasn't been forgotten. It's just been set aside in certain traditions, often due to its challenging ideas. People often assume if a book wasn't included in the Bible, it must have been considered heretical or false. But sometimes it's more complicated. Books like Jubilees might have just been a bit too bold or detailed for the early leaders to comfortably include in what they wanted as a more unified, safe Bible. So in many ways, the Book of Jubilees is a classic case of too much information. Jubilees offers a rewired version of Genesis, where angels directly reveal historical events to Moses on Mount Sinai, recounting not only the creation of the world, but also the precise chronology of key events, down to the exact years, months, and even days. This approach differs from Genesis, which is broader and less specific in its timelines. Jubilees introduces the concept of Jubilee cycles, which are periods of 49 years, framing history in a cosmic timetable. This wasn't simply an arbitrary choice. The author believed that each Jubilee marked a divine moment in history, meaning that everything from Adam's creation to the Exodus was part of a grand plan designed by God. Here's where things get especially interesting and perhaps controversial. The Book of Jubilees emphasizes obedience to the Mosaic Law in a way that is unparalleled by other texts. It stresses the importance of following laws that even include detailed observances like dietary restrictions, circumcision, and Sabbath keeping, rules that later Hellenistic influences.
Wait a minute, she's saying that circumcision is not allowed and all the men get circumcised? Oh, snap. But if you don't circumcise a boy, they get a lot of infections down there. So I don't think circumcision is a bad idea, but why is it prohibited? Okay, I guess.
Which were more lenient, did not emphasize as strictly. Scholars have argued that Jubilees may have been written to counteract those Hellenistic ideas, reinforcing Jewish identity and strict adherence to the law. This put it at odds with emerging Christian doctrines, especially since early Christian leaders began to see the law as a shadow of things to come, focusing more on spiritual freedom in Christ rather than the rigidity of the law. This strict stance might have been uncomfortable for some early religious authorities who were shaping what would become the mainstream Christian faith. At a time when Rome was spreading its influence over Christianity, leaders wanted to form a unified doctrine that would be easier to adopt and more palatable to a diverse population. Emphasizing laws that many would see as restrictive wasn't convenient for their goals of expansion and conversion. Thus, books like Jubilees, which reinforced a very specific way of life, didn't fit into this framework. What's more, the Book of Jubilees dives into some fascinating and controversial topics that aren't as thoroughly addressed in other biblical texts. For example, it gives a much deeper account of the Watchers, those fallen angels who intermarried with humans and brought about the Nephilim, the giants, referenced briefly in Genesis. Jubilees describes in detail how these Watchers introduce forbidden knowledge to humanity, from weapon making to enchantments, giving a distinct warning against adopting practices that lead people away from God.
That's crazy. You got fallen angels, right? And no matter where you read about them, it feels like they're sin makers.
Easy to see why these ideas may have been seen as too radical or problematic. After all, discussing celestial beings who brought knowledge with potentially harmful consequences could raise more questions than early church leaders wanted to address, as it didn't align with their vision of a more sanitized and straightforward gospel message. One major reason Jubilees was excluded from the canon was its adherence to a highly apocalyptic worldview, which doesn't align with the direction the early church was taking. This apocalyptic tone was shared by the Dead Sea Scrolls community, the Essenes, who also considered Jubilees as scripture. In their view, this book highlighted the looming threat of divine judgment, warning against complacency. But the church, particularly in its earliest stages, was trying to solidify its teachings around a doctrine that emphasized God's love and forgiveness, as opposed to a narrative rooted in cosmic judgment and strict law. It's this shift in emphasis, from divine order and obedience to forgiveness and grace, that helped shape what was included in the Bible. Additionally, the Book of Jubilees clashed with certain ideas that would eventually evolve into widely accepted Christian doctrines. The book was deemed by some to be too Jewish, with its intense focus on Jewish law and tradition, and early church leaders sought a message that would resonate more universally. By reinforcing Jewish identity and culture, Jubilees risked alienating non-Jewish converts who would find these strict practices unfamiliar or even off-putting. In summary, the Book of Jubilees wasn't excluded from the canon simply because it was unimportant. On the contrary, it offered a highly structured, lawful, and apocalyptic interpretation of biblical history, suggesting that God's plan was meticulously designed around laws and cycles. But for early leaders, this structure was challenging. It was too rigid, too detailed, and didn't support the image of Christianity they wanted to present to the world. By choosing books that emphasized love, forgiveness, and salvation over strict obedience and cosmic judgment, they could form a unified doctrine that appealed to a broader audience. By exploring these connections, we can see that the Book of Jubilees isn't simply an alternate version of Genesis, but rather a text deeply rooted in tradition, law, and apocalyptic worldview. Its interpretations and expansions on biblical themes underscore the tension between the ancient Jewish emphasis on law and
basically, basically it goes deeper into the chapters of the Bible, right? Like I've said before. And for those of y'all that want to learn more about the Book of Jubilees, right, or understand it a little bit, y'all can go check the word out. He will, break it down for y'all guys. But this is all the time that I got right now, man. I want to go longer, but I got this pain that won't go away. So listen, I will see y'all tonight once I get myself together. I got to deal with this pain, and I got to deal with my kids. I got to deal with breakfast. So I'll see y'all tonight on some late night type shit. So, man, on that note, a shorty is out. Till next time, man, I hope all of y'all have a blessed and humble night. Continue to have a blessed and humble day. Like I said, I wanted to go a little longer, but I can't deal with this, John.